Excuse me?
Get out of here.
Well, that sucks.
All right. So 2023, another 420 episode. Thank you, Brian, for joining us again. And we got two other additional guests this year. And we have Chris of the Depeche Commode channel. And then over in the other corner, we have Logan of Drunken Metalhead Musings. Today he's baked, though.
Baked.
So it's just a relaxing conversation. Talk about some of our favorite 420 themed things. Not everything here has to have a pot leaf on it, but things that would inspire you to light up, or partake. Or tonight I'm drinking a Stellar Phase. It's just a 5.0, but I still want to go to Pluto.
Yeah. That is a very cosmic can you got there.
It's not a berry or anything like that, but it's nice and chillax for tonight. So
Yep.
It's recording this in the evening. I'm sure by the time people are watching this, it'll be sometime in the evening for them, at least here in the States. So we're gonna just cycle through and just show some of our favorite picks. Everything's loose, so whatever goes, and then don't be startled if I blow you up and talk as much or as little as you want of each release. I think the idea here is it's not to make any pitches or anything. It just kind of talk about what we like, what's been in our rotation, and if you want to start with what's been kind of your early influences. I know Brian and I kind of covered this last year, but if you got something new, you could include that in there. Chris, Logan, they should be cool, kind of introduce people, kind of just to give you a little context about how you got into this, because I feel like this, especially the stoner genre, we could cover, we subscribe and watch a lot of these people in the VC, but this is not brought up all that much, people kind of just tend to skip over this particular little niche. At least I see it frequently enough, especially with the doom stuff. There are some, again, a lot of us are metalheads, but then there's some stuff here that's not all metal, right? There's some rock, desert rock in particular, and whatnot, some psych, classic rock, and all that good stuff.
In fact, when I was going through like my picks, I was like kind of surprised how many of them were kind of stuff I would classify as rock as opposed to metal. Definitely on the stoner rock side, but definitely not something I would really classify as wholeheartedly as metal. So I've been listening to a lot of that this past year.
I think that's why this kind of music, that's why it gets glossed over. It's just because it doesn't fit neatly, especially into the extreme metal tag. And then also if you're like tracing like the lineage, everyone will just stick on the new wave of British heavy metal or like the first wave of black metal, and there's no desire to find where this genre starts from.
Mm-hmm.
It's different. It's one of those things where also the bands themselves may not identify as metal, or adjacent to this. Some of them don't like those tags, or even like stoner, like we're not really stoner. I'm like, well, you have a lot of elements in your sound and imagery that we can lump you in a little bit here, so that's what I'm kind of curious to see what you guys show tonight, to see how well this all kind of fits in there by the time we're done. So I guess I'll start with you, Brian, and kind of and we'll cycle around. Since you're the esteemed guest who was here last year, and kind of just get things warmed up.
We're multiplying like gremlins now. So
16 next time.
So I picked a band first of all that I was really excited to talk about. And we mentioned them briefly when Logan and I did the Weedian comp, where we talked about stoner bands from Illinois and North Carolina. and this is resin. Oh, geez. They sent some stickers.
Oh, you got the new one.
Yeah, so this is the new one. This is Solace. And this is a Chicago band. And this is already, I think, their 4th album. Came out on the 8th of March. They have copies of this on their Bandcamp. I don't even know what label. It's an independent release. This is one of my favorite albums I've heard so far this year. It's definitely got that kind of psychedelic, spiritual, celestial kind of feel to it. Not only in the artwork, which I think is really cool, with the sun shining through the clouds and like this kind of Himalayan mountain. And it's also got kind of the logo here kind of gives off some of those vibes too, you know, like
It looks almost Japanese.
Yeah, I was going to say like a Oriental type, you know, Tibetan maybe. Anyway, the music on here is really, well, the album's called Solace. And I think that fits it pretty well. It's very kind of calm, and there's a lot of build up to it. It's got tons of like layers and effects. But it does have some periods of heaviness, but I really think the periods of calm really kind of stand out to this. And actually, when I was talking to Logan about this earlier this week, he mentioned where he kind of maybe got lost a little bit in those parts, and for me personally, those were the parts of the album that kind of engaged me the most. The first song is called Allured by Feverish Visions. It's almost like an intro, but it's like 7.5 minutes, no vocals, just this big build up, you know, clean guitars, interesting drum patterns, you know, these kind of lumbering bass lines. As you get throughout the album, they include some other like world type instruments. I know the sitar is credited, as long as definitely there's a saxophone. So I really think this is some of their best work. I definitely have enjoyed everything they've put out so far. I think the last one was called Calm Black Water, and that in itself kind of somehow through there's you know, sonically they're able to create like these like soundscapes, you know, kind of giving you impression that you're this kind of mystical mountain, or in the case of Calm Black Water, you know, that kind of dark aquatic vibe to it, you know. So I think this album is fantastic. There's no doubt it's going to be in like my top 10. It may even be number 1. I have not heard anything this year yet that's really topped it. So really interested to. Oh, I think they're going on a tour with band Oryx. You guys know them? I think they're from out west.
Yeah,
I
Colorado.
think they're touring all through the U.S. Maybe starting in May. I think they're doing like a record release show in Chicago, and then setting off from there. So if they come close, highly recommend checking them out.
Yeah, I hope to see them live. I feel like that might help with their sound. And you say you know, album of the year right now. You haven't heard Dab City yet, so.
All right, I gotta leave I have to leave a spot open for
asterisk
Longzilla, yeah, because it's we've heard a couple singles, and actually the last time I saw them, they had just finished recording, and they played Hippie Stick live, and they played the song Dab City live. So yeah, interested to hear. The new Longzilla when that comes out.
I got into them kind of late. I started with the last one, Chaotic Divine, and I was just taken aback of how mature their sound was. You know, that's one of those bands where there's so much substance to them. There's so much stuff going on. You know, like you
Exactly.
said, you mentioned sitars and things. I was like, ooh, like what is this? Like there was all these little elements thrown in there I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
For something with that genre tag.
Exactly. And they started in 20s, or their first album came out in 2017. And also, if you kind of look at their
It's not long ago when you think about
progression, they've got some collaborations with some electronic artists where they collaborate and do like, you know, like a synthwave type album that's on Bandcamp. They did a release with Wake Brewing, actually.
Oh, cool.
A single called Mirage Dub. So yeah, they got a lot of variation to their sound. A lot
In fact,
of
they built a name for
experimentation.
themselves that they can get a deal with Wake Brewing and whatnot. You know, they definitely put themselves out there. Which is really cool.
And their stuff's available on their Bandcamp, and it's, you know, it's all really quality stuff. Yeah, for some reason, Calm Black Water really stood out to me. But that last one, Chaotic Divine, was excellent as well. I like all their stuff, but Solace is it's special.
So it's even better. It's a step up from their last one. Yeah, I like what I heard.
Yeah,
I'll have to listen to it again, and I think really try to focus on like the quieter bits, because sometimes it's hard not to go in and you're like waiting for it to get heavy.
Yeah.
And then you're like checking the time, and
right.
It's like it's been 5 minutes. Where's the down-tuned riffs and stuff?
Yeah.
Where's the sludge?
But I feel like they're there. It's just they're not like
they're
not like the focal point. There's some heaviness, but it's mostly that kind of astral, you know, soft plotting kind of, you know, ebb and flow of the song. Yeah,
cool.
So.
For sure.
We'll move on to I guess we'll move on to Chris. You got the bathrobe now, man. I'm curious to know what your pick.
The Lebowski pick.
I think that's your calling card, right?
It is. Yeah. The bathrobe is it's part of my branding.
It's good to have branding.
Yeah. So something that is always 420 friendly for me. A lot of times I like, you know, something that music that kind of reminds me of maybe a time and a place. And I've, you know, sort of like kind of just what the lifestyle might have been like. And for me, I've always liked Fu Manchu.
Oh yeah,
that's a great one.
Especially this album, California Crossing. It's so good, and it definitely reminds me of what life must have been like if you were. I always wondered what it must have been like to be one of those guys who just grew up in SoCal, and you know, it's like, you know, you get out of school and then you go surfing and hang out with chicks and on the beach all the time, you know, that SoCal, like Venice Beach lifestyle. The whole idea is so foreign to me. And, you know, just that climate and, you know, because I always kind of like, you know how with us being music fans, we always kind of say like, oh, if I was born 10 years earlier, it would have been cool to be in, you know, like this scene or go to these shows or something. One of the things I've always thought about was like early 80s Southern California, like Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont
Fast Times.
High. But you know, when life was just simple and you hung out at the beach and surfed and you know, you wear like a t-shirt that says Bikini Inspector and you wouldn't get canceled for that, you know, or end up on some watch list. And, you know, we're just hanging out at the beach and surfing. It was your whole life, you know, and
you walk around with a boombox on your shoulder.
Oh yeah, completely. And skateboarding. When you're not surfing, you're out skateboarding and with the boombox over your shoulder, you know. And Fu Manchu just have always done like, I've never thought of Fu Manchu as stoner rock, I think they've just always been this unique style of just like West Coast surf skate rock or like surf rock, you know.
Yeah, they're from Orange County, right? So that's like the skate capital of the U.S., isn't it? Like, or at least one of the
Oh yeah,
skate
oh
capital cities. So.
completely. Yeah, and you know that's always been one of their things too, is like skate culture, like 80s, like Dogtown, and you know 80s skate culture, and kind of like another one too. And I'm ashamed that it took me so long to get this on vinyl, but The Action Is Now, or I'm sorry, The Action Is Go.
Yeah.
This one I ordered it from Revolver like maybe 3 years ago or so, but this is another one where just a really good, you know, safe, you know, skate, surf, rock. I mean, yeah, fuzzy guitars and a lot of distortion and stuff, so that's where it could kind of like fit into that stoner type of sound. But Fu Manchu have always been really awesome.
What's the opening song off that album? Because that I remember we hung out one time. You played that.
Oh yeah, the opening song off of this one, God, it has a Evil Eye.
Evil Eye.
And then Brant.
That's got a riff right there.
Yeah, that's a really good one. With the Brant Bjork was playing drums on this one, and on.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and he was also with them on California Crossing too.
Squash That Fly off California Crossing was always one of my favorites.
That's a really good
song.
One.
Rocks.
Yeah, Squash That Fly and Thinking Out Loud is one that I've always liked a lot. But
I was watching a number of years ago the Super Bowl at my buddy's house, and there's a car commercial, and the backing track to the commercial was Mongoose, and I just started flipping out. Nobody else like recognized the song. I'm like, this is the greatest song ever.
Yeah.
Mongoose Flies.
Yeah, that's another good one. So
you know, that's one of those bands that came in kind of at a time when I was already moving away from getting more into the extreme music. Felt like you know, I kind of missed out on a few years. There was them, Arch Goblin, you know, when that stuff was happening. You know, I cycled back eventually. I'm glad Revolver put that out, man. They've been killing it with those reissues lately. Like those essential like classics. It's just I think they've been doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, definitely.
But what you got, Logan?
All right. So since Rick started off with talking about a beer, let me mention mine. My 420 is sponsored by Sweetwater and their 420 Extra Pale Ale. So Sweetwater, it's a brewery. They embody the Hesher lifestyle. They have like this perfect mix of skanky, dank hops that they put in all their IPAs. Smells like opening like a dime bag or something for some of them.
Really?
So,
Tasty.
It's kind of genius.
Tasty.
Yeah.
It works. It works. It works with this music for sure. Because despite my name, I'm not actually baked. I'm not currently smoking much. So this is the closest I'll get, I guess. But kind of taking note from your original stream that you did with Brian last year, I wanted to start with like kind of what got me in to this genre, because for me it was pretty important in just getting into music, and it's stuck with me just because of how fun and oriented on the riff this kind of music is. And maybe it's also like my geographic location, like being in North Carolina. You know, we don't have mountains in the backyard to like listen to black metal, or you know, swamps to be like, oh yeah, this fucking death metal sounds just like a rotting corpse out in, you know, the Everglades. But this kind of music really fit a lot of the seasons that I'd experienced around North Carolina. Last year you guys both mentioned Down with Nola and Deliverance by Corrosion. Those are two very important ones for me. I just wanted to show off this is single right here for Stone the Crow, where all it is just the song Stone the Crow.
That's badass. Yeah.
The
That was the
ultimate-
song. That was the song too that got me hooked.
Likewise.
Yeah.
The highest number of times I've just listened to this in a row, 6 or 7, where I just let it repeat.
I think for a lot of us too,
It's
it's
such
the
a good
first time.
song.
It's the first time we heard like Phil doing vocals without some dime bag attached to it. You know, like we had a kind of Pepper and those guys kind of it was like a nice alternate take. He's from New Orleans, right? So you kind of going back to that sound to the area where he's at without the Texan thing, you know, happening.
Yep.
So that's why that's a landmark
bluesy and groovy.
Yeah.
And I just remember that melody just sticks with you too of the guitar more so than anything. So that's what initially hooked me. And then I went to a concert. My first concert ever was Red Fang opening up for The Sword.
Oh wow!
Like that was it, and it was for both of these albums for these bands. And man, it was just amazing night. Probably ruined my life forever. Red Fang was just awesome. They brought the energy. There was like the first mosh pit I ever was in was for Prehistoric Dog.
So good.
Dude, this album and their self-titled one before are to me great, like classics. Like if you like enjoy like sludge or just stoner rock, you definitely have to listen to Murder the Mountains. Hank is Dead, and then like the heavier songs like Dirt Wizard and Throw Up, aptly titled, and then Number 13 and Into the Eye are great also. And then of course we did a whole deep dive on The Sword. Not gonna spend too much time on them. I mean, probably because of recency of this being the first thing I heard. It's my favorite album by him. But
just for a reminder, I'll leave a link to that stream too when we post this, because if anybody who cares, if they're already watching this video, I'm sure they're probably into this stuff, so maybe they should know about The Sword. This must have been like the religious experience for you when you first caught this show.
It was
like, when you get those born agains passing out pamphlets, you're probably like, no, thank you. I already had my Sword Red Fang experience. I'm good.
That's exactly what it was, man. It was like
I've seen the light.
The switch, flipping in your mind. You're like, this is it. Especially it was at like a smaller venue. This was right before they released Apocryphon. They weren't like touring in. It was a couple hundred people tops, and I just remember hearing like them playing Arrows in the Dark, the Chronomancer 1 and 2 off of this, and that's just a riff style of the best kind right there. And live, it's any better. And then of course they ripped through some of their classic stuff from Gods of the Earth and Age of Winters as well. So that's what sold me on just stoner rock, sludge, doom. I mean, it's such an interesting umbrella of different sounds and genres. I think that's what also kind of makes me enjoy it as much. Just there's so much diversity within it, especially dynamic wise.
The first time I saw Clutch, Red Fang was the opener, and they were touring on that first EP. And I remember me and my buddy got there just a hair like late, or we had issues with parking. So, we're trying to get through the ticket, the ticket entry and get our wristbands and shit. And I hear the starting couple notes of Reverse Thunder, like coming from I'm like, let's move it along. Can we speed this up? Because they just started. So I missed like half that song, but yeah, that's the only time I've seen Red Fang. But they were awesome. And I'm with you. That first one in Murder the Mountains they're both classics. And their videos, I mean, they make the best freaking music videos in a time where music videos don't really matter anymore. They still make the fucking best music videos, hands down.
My favorite is Hank is Dead, where it's a guitar solo competition.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest like Oh man, such a fun one. But Prehistoric Dog, you have to check out as a music video too if you've never seen that one.
Yeah, is that the one where they make the armor out of
Beer.
Ribbon cans?
One Halloween, I did that out of I made an axe out of Pabst Blue Ribbon. It was
Nice.
Red Fang inspired.
Red Fang, and they're out of Portland, right?
Or West,
Oregon.
Interesting pair up that night. Like them, you get this sort of Texan band along with this Portland band. Like it must have been your boss must have been crushed from like the heaviness of of those riffs, man. Like just everything. You know, and they have a way to hold your interest. You know, in the way they because there's some bands who are just thick and just like I'm thinking of like Sleep, right? Where like it's just about holding that massive thing and it can tend to extend it. But these bands are a little more faster moving. You know.
Yeah, they were. I think that's probably what helped with them being my first band is that they were faster, you know, in execution.
That's also a good thing to kind of note. When people are getting into this stuff, they may have this preconceived idea of what these sort of bands may sound like.
With the faster stuff.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of variety here too.
Like Fu Manchu, that's a great example of the fast.
Yeah, actually, that was a really good one. I mean, if you're already listening to Caius, you know, I don't see why you wouldn't like Fu Manchu, you know, and those kind of, even though they have their own, of course, their own differences, right? Like I said, you mentioned the skate element and things like that, which is, you know, you hear the California in there, in that kind of way. Yeah. So okay. So here's what I got. Well, first of all, I don't know if you ever been watching my videos, but I had this sort of Franken Snoopy hanging out in the back. And it's a Franken Snoopy, but every time I look at this, I don't see a Franken in there. I see like a baked out Snoopy, one that he's green. And when you look at his eyes, look how baked he looks.
Oh yeah.
Which is you know, I always like the Snoopy character because it's kind of like just seeing how chill he was on that doghouse. You know, like just like when the world just becomes too much, you just don't give a shit anymore. You just get up on on the roof there. Like I there were times like I wish I could just do that. You know, like I could just be like this dog and just get away from the world and just get up there and you know that's why some people use drugs because they can't do that. You know, they can't just get up on the doghouse and escape and you know they have to partake in some substances. That's the way they know how to do it.
I think being on the roof, high on substances is probably a bad idea. You know, I'm sure there's a high rate of people falling.
When you're that young watching the Peanuts, like you also get introduced to the element of physics just by critical thinking. You're like, how's he pulling himself up there?
Yeah, right.
How doesn't that just roll off the roof?
Well, and his doghouse was an A-frame, so how is he just chilling out, just sleeping on the roof?
It's got great balance
of the doghouse when it's an A-frame.
How does that work? You know, but then you know you try to forget it when you're like 8 years old. You know, 7, 8 years old. You're like even then you start to realize like this will hurt my brain thinking about it too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for those who don't know the thumbnails, you youngins, you know, the Chronic was huge for me. I'm sure for you guys, you know, just as much. Who, you know, it's rap, but if you're gonna own a rap album, I mean, you can't go wrong. And I love how the I've never had this on vinyl growing up, so I've never got to see what the labels were like. I don't know if this is the OG, but they had the big ass pot leaf.
The CD had the big pot leaf. The actual disc. I don't remember. Yeah. You opened it up and it was like right in your face. Yeah.
For years, I've had a Dubs cassette version of it. You know, I've just been, and I kept wearing out the tape, and I just would get another one. You know, like it was just you could do that. You know, today you could just burn a CD and it's no big deal. You know, but man, they really pushed up pot leaf hard on this, even on the back. Like this just. Speaking of the West Coast, you know, we might be showing quite a bit of West Coast stuff here.
I mean, it's an absolute classic, though. I don't know if that was the first Snoop Dogg appearance. He might have been on earlier Dr. Dre song.
I think it's one of the, at least that's the way I was introduced. Right here, I
mean, might have been on
featuring the Snoop Dogg. You got the DLC, you know, which is Yeah, and this thing, man, that's what souls me right here, man. It's like 11,
It's
12-year-old me seeing that, and I'm like, that's a must have.
That's the buy me sticker.
It is. It's a glaring. So here's a band. I don't know if you guys ever heard of these guys, but man, are they really good? They're called Restless Spirit. This is their second album. So they formed in 2018, and this is Blood of the Old Gods. You can kind of guess what their sound might be like here, because Brian, you showed Resin, and then Logan, you showed the Sword, and you kind of like get those vibes looking at this. You wouldn't be too far off. So they're actually from Long Island. So this is a New York band, of all places. Their first album came out in 2019, and this right here, it's kind of like there's a bit of heavy metal thrown in with some of those sword like I guess groove and just riffage. It kind of you guys into Spirit Adrift at all?
That's what I was going to ask, if it was like them, because
Cursed at Conception is a great album.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a doomy kind of flavor with kind of one of those doomy or heavy metal kind of touches.
Okay.
The singing, it's quite clean. You could tell this person either's been doing it for years or whatever, but it's very well developed. It's very well developed vocals. It's very catchy, really holds your attention. But yeah, this kind of if I were to kind of lump it in with a combination of something like Spirit Adrift meets the Sword, kind of like the Apocryphon era. And I actually pulled that one because I actually didn't show this on the when we did the deep dive, because I didn't have it on vinyl yet. Had the CD, so I said, you know what, fuck it. So
made amends.
I made amends. They got this crazy lava, like kind of fiery volcano pit looking kind of whatever. That's what they had on hand. So it's cool, because you mentioned it too. When you were talking about them, but yeah, really, really good stuff. So I gotta go back and pick up their first album, which it's cool when you find a new band and like you find they only have like 1 or 2 albums out. You're like, all right, I don't have to go back and fucking seek out 5 more albums. Not yet, anyway. So I think kind of
that's a band I've been meaning to check out. They've been were they just touring with Crowbar? Maybe
Spirit Adrift did.
Oh, okay. I feel like the rest. I saw they were on some recent tour through the U.S. with another larger band.
Yeah, they came by. I've listened to a couple songs from them, and they a very adventurous version of like a stoner or a kind of sludge sound.
Yeah.
Also, Logan, you did and I'll probably link that too, because it was a cool, which I should have mentioned in the beginning, is you and Brian did a Weedian, a collab recently, which is, it's awesome. And the thing about a lot of these stoner bands we talk about is there's a lot of really good comps out there. One glaring one that I think we should mention too is the Doomed and Stoned series, which is all over Bandcamp, and they cover just about every city style you can imagine. And this is how I found this band, actually. It was through the Doomed and Stoned. So this was the New York variation, which is funny because it had like the cover has the Statue of Liberty, kind of like holding a spliff.
That's
the torch, which is really entertaining. So yeah, I mean you can just spend all day. And I think it's pay what you want, right? It's like the best value. It's like you can buy these comps and you get all these, like, introduced to all these bands from all over. And I didn't check, but I think it is pay what you want, and you can get all this stuff, which is fucking amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Weedian. The Weedian was, I think, name your price. I think you have to pay like $1 to actually get it linked into your Bandcamp account. You know what I mean? Or the mobile app. So if you pay $1, you'll get it. But it's like when we were counting up the tracks, I mean, Illinois was like 68, and North Carolina was like in the 60s
48.
as well.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's so long. It was like
Oh,
over
it's such
4
a
hours
ton
of
of
music.
music. Right.
Okay, but it's nice icy blue.
And it's a good oh, that's nice. And it's a good representation of, you know, current active bands and some bands that are maybe are on a break, or, you know, classic bands from the last era. You know, it kind of, they do a good job of filling in the gaps.
It's like a chronicling kind of to me, because they do, it's from the beginning to even stuff that is like being dropped this year. Weedian does a great job. They just dropped a Wisconsin
was good.
compilation. The New York one that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then Maryland too. Gotta check out the Maryland comp.
Yeah,
the Maryland Stone in Wisconsin too. They did for that series. I think again, because it is a mixed bag, it's like some of the bands may no longer be active. And some are just like a one-off. So like you want to get into a band, be like, ah, shit, this is the only material they ever put out. So then you don't know, you know, these guys are just lumping all this stuff together.
Yeah, could just be a couple songs on Bandcamp, and that was it. That's all I did. Speaking of Doomed and Stoned in New York, here's a New York band, King Bastard.
Oh yes.
I was looking back. I know I've talked about these guys before. I don't know if it was on the 420 last year. I kind of scrolled through and looked for. I do know we talked about the Cosmic Peddler quite a bit, which is interesting because they released this independently, and then the Cosmic Peddler just released this on vinyl, so it's in stock now. This is one of my favorite finds from last year. First of all, the cover art is absolutely striking, very eye-catching. This is King Bastard. It came from the void. 6 tracks of instrumental psychedelic space doom, if you could not tell from the artwork. They do have vocals on the third track, Psychosis in a Vacuum, but it's like black metal type screams, and it's used very sparingly. Other than that, they'll throw in some sound samples, you know, either from like science documentaries about space, or I think Black Hole Viscera has a sample from Aliens. Ripley, when she's talking to Burke about, you know, cultivating the xenomorph for, you know, as a weapon. But so really, really cool, really engaging. I like the flow of this album. It's definitely got a vibe to it. It's got the space rock stuff going on, but it's still very heavy and dark, you know. They're out of New York.
It ties in the astronaut thing very well too. It's like, it's not just a picture. They got the alien thing that you were saying.
yeah, definitely. So this is mixed, engineered by Colin Marston from Prowess, you know.
That guy's prolific as shit, man.
Yeah,
he's like,
that's an unusual project for him to engineer for, though.
Very true. Yeah.
I'm used to, like, you know, it's the schizophrenic caveman death metal band,
that kind of stuff.
Called Pyron or something.
Yeah, so that stood out to me. So I just picked this up, the vinyl version. I bought the CD off Bandcamp last year, but I liked it so much I wanted the vinyl version. So they just had it, and Cosmic Peddler just had a sale, so it was a win-win. Grab a few things, get a little discount. Oh, and they just did a short little tour in support of this vinyl release. They did a couple dates in the Texas area, which is where the Cosmic Peddler is located. So that was cool. He brought them out for, you know, like a couple shows, and they brought out some cool openers on each stop, you know, just throughout the state. So hopefully they'll do a more extensive tour you know, now that they've kind of got their feet wet as far as playing live. I don't know how many live dates they did before that, but it'd be cool to see them come through the area. I definitely go check them out. So one of my favorites that I heard last year was this one.
Cool. Yeah, it's not just an eye-catching cover. Like, there's actually really good material in there. I'm glad you mentioned the Cosmic Peddler too, because we might be mentioning Bandcamp quite a bit, but that's not like the only place you can get stuff, obviously. So they carry a lot of good imports too. Like, they carry DHU and other shit like that's not here. If you happen to be in the States, so if you find that this stuff is on Bandcamp and you got to pay as much as the record costs just to get the thing shipped here, you can check out a source like Cosmic Peddler and get it at a reason. And it runs sales too, like some pretty good sales.
Surely a couple times a year, definitely.
Frequently enough.
Yeah.
All right, Chris.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and just get this one out of the way because I'm sure it's gonna come up at some point, or maybe not. I don't know, but it's a given. And that's Dope Throne by Electric Wizard. So I have these are first press.
That's all you have?
Yeah. So yeah, I have this. This album kind of, I know when it comes to like stoner doom, this is a given. But it's like the first album that I listened to where the whole experience is completely different if you're wearing headphones. Because like I discovered that get really high or if you're on mushrooms and then you listen to music through headphones. One is you need to be careful of the volume because you'll keep turning it up louder and louder, not realizing that you're making yourself go deaf. Yeah. But with headphones, it's just so immersive listening to it. And especially because there's so much low end to this one with just all of the fuzz. And it's really an incredible album to listen to through headphones. But especially when you're stoned. It's a really good one. I mean, Funeralopolis, I the Witchfinder.
I love that one, man. That's a bang out classic.
I mean, this album from start to finish, it's a classic. You can't go wrong with this one. I mean, I don't. Kind of like with Electric Wizard. Come My Fanatics is another one that's like a really good, just sort of like if you want to blaze and just sit back and listen to something. It's because for me, when I'm high and listening to music, there are just certain frequencies that just aren't comfortable to listen to, like high frequency sounds just are too just distracting. But the Wizard knows what they're doing when they're making their stoner doom rock. So plenty of substances to help curate this music.
So why the three? Is it the three different variants? I guess just different pressings. I mean, obviously they had to be three different pressings, right?
Yeah, a black, white, and a clear. Okay. I think that for the first press, that's what they had. I was like a big Electric Wizard fan, probably like 15 years ago. So I have most every vinyl pressing up through Black Masses is the one when I started to lose interest in them. I think their sound kind of just started to get a little old after a while.
Same here, yeah. I kind of dropped out around that time period.
Yeah. I saw. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, when they played at Maryland Death Fest, I believe that was in 2013, and it was so awesome because that's the only time I've ever seen them, but they were playing outside, and like, it would just started to get dark because it was, probably maybe around 7, 8 o'clock at night when they started to play. But then it started to rain, like seriously, like just like right when, they just start to play, but then it just starts raining like lightly. And it was just such a good set. And I remember they closed their set with Super Coven, which is a great song. And it was just the lights and then the rain and everything was just so cool.
Wow.
That
I
is
know
just
I was going to say that the first time I seen that Dope Throne cover, I thought it was a bad scan. And that was years ago. I'm like, they could have just turned on the sharpening. Like, what's up with that?
Right.
I didn't know it's intentional.
the sound on that album is just so like dense.
Yeah.
I just love it. All the feedback and the distortion. It's just one of the heaviest things you could hear.
I love like I the Witchfinder, like just at the end, it's like I the Witchfinder. I mean, it's just so good.
The thing about Electric Wizard too is I noticed they're one of those derivative descripting bands, meaning that if you're talking about stoner bands, like either going to the school of Sabbath, or people are going to bring up the Sleep, or Electric Wizard. Like there's a certain foundation that I noticed this, like when you bring up certain kinds of bands, like it's going to be one of those tiers.
Yeah.
You're a classic band when younger bands start using your album titles and song titles as their band name.
Good point.
Right.
Yeah.
So you made it once that starts happening.
Dope Throne out of Canada, right?
Yes, Dope Throne from Canada, which is awesome into themselves. But
remember we were on that last stream the other week, and I showed you guys that shitty Wizard tape.
Yeah,
I bought it on the whim, thinking it was going to be something stoner because it had Wizard in the name. It turned out to be a punk band. Like
it's usually a good
can't do
indication.
that. Wizard's reserved for stoner bands.
Yeah, it is. It should be. Rebel Wizard.
They can do it though. Rebel Wizard, they're crazy.
They're not necessarily stoner, are they?
No,
I didn't think so.
Oh yeah, Rebel Wizard. Yeah, I forgot. It's
like a one man. Like there's definitely drugs involved though, so I think it's fine.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's allowed.
That's good with me.
All right, Logan.
All right, so I'm kind of following the format of your guys' stream last year. So you guys went from bands that got you into the genre to then side projects and super groups of established stoner and sludge bands. Because that's like the funny thing you realize when you get into this, genre. All of these guys are just career musicians that have to make music no matter what, and it all kind of ends up being in this style. So oftentimes they'll collaborate with each other, or they'll make new bands after their last band exploded for no reason. So there's a whole bunch of side projects out there. I wanted to start off with like the one-off side project to end all one-off side projects. This is Shrine Builder. It's Al from Sleep, Wino from The Obsessed, Dale Crover from the Melvins, and then over here, that one guy from Neurosis, Scott Kelly. I'll say his name. But this is just such a. It's an interesting listen because it's almost like a what if of stoner doom. It's like, what if Scott was singing for Sleep, or what if Al was on an Obsessed song? Because it really kind of sounds like all of their distinct styles kind of smashed together. I don't really know if it finds its own unique sound during this album, but does it have to? I mean, because it's got all three, Al, Wino, and Scott Kelly, all singing. And whenever they're singing, you're like, oh man, that's The Obsessed, or oh, that's Neurosis. And I think instrumentally the backdrop sounds very much like a blend between Sleep's Holy Mountain and probably some Obsessed material,
Or maybe
like it doesn't
Spirit.
it doesn't get like Neurosis heavy,
Mhm.
but at the same time it's not like the punk energy of Melvin's doesn't really enter the picture that much. So maybe Dale Crover enjoyed being on here. Still, this is a great album, and I think just if you're a fan of any of these bands, you should check out Shrine Builder.
Oh, what
for
year
sure.
did that come out?
Shoot, give me a second.
Yeah,
Just an idea,
I think 2009. So,
oh wow, yeah, okay.
yeah.
Because I'm trying to pinpoint when those guys, like, what albums were coming out at the time. When
Yeah.
that came out, because that's a side project for them.
Yep.
They got their main bigger projects alongside that. It's interesting how they're also sharing like vocal duties and things. So it's not something you hear about often with these bands. They usually have like the one front guy.
Yes. So one of my curiosities going into this was like, how the hell does this thing get started? Apparently it started with Al reaching out to Wino about just doing a jam together, and that kind of makes the most sense of them. And then in the search for a drummer, they stumbled upon Dale, and then I guess Kelly ended up in the mix towards the end. But it's just cool. It's like it's kind of like the Pro Bowl, right?
Oh, it's a legit supergroup album.
Yeah,
and it comes through that way, especially because like you said, their three vocals are so kind of distinct.
They're distinct.
Yeah, and so it harkens back to their original projects.
Like, can you imagine listening to a song with Al doing his like almost like because this was during his material, his crone, kind of croon, and then Scott Kelly comes in right after with like that bark. It's good. I think it measures up to the sum of its parts. It doesn't like go beyond it, but it definitely is a great listen.
It reminds me a lot in theory, not in sound, but in kind of concept, as that Twilight Project, where all the black metal, U.S. black metal,
with those Rest and
got together. Yeah, I was like, Imperial, Blake Judd, all those guys got together, and then I think they put out a few albums, and then they started bringing like Aaron Turner from ISIS and like I think even the guy from Sonic Youth, Thurston Moore, played on like their third album. Like I think one of the guys from the Atlas Moth. They just started bringing in more and more like strange collaborators to that project.
Yeah.
But this is a one-off. That Shrine Builder is really good.
Yep, and that's all they did. It was just that one from 2009. Yeah. So find it if you can. It was released on Neurot Recordings.
Yeah, I picked it up fairly recently in the last year or two.
Nice.
And so it's out there, on Discogs, or I'm sure maybe even some of these kind of like, I might have even got it off FYE, one of those websites that has like, new and used CDs. Amazon might have it, who knows, but it's out there. It shouldn't be too hard to find for a decent price.
All right. So I think I'll also bring up this band. So going to Japan, they released this last year, and this is a split with Boris, Rocky into Sweden, and so they there's a big old pot leaf in the back. So this doesn't clearly fall into that what you call the traditional stoner sound. This is more falls on that sort of hardcore punk kind of element, but it's still quite heavy for something that would be classified as that genre. Boris in on themselves are like quite a mixed bag. They release all kinds of stuff that's kind of I guess more in the doom sludge, but also they can go psychedelic when they want to, and they're all over the map. Here, this is kind of their take on trying to do more of the hardcore punk thing. And again, they're very, very flexible. I know Rocking to Sweden, they haven't released anything for years, and they're one of the few bands, one being out of Japan, it's going to be strange and interesting. But they were one of the early ones that took on that sort of that pot leaf persona, that whole THC, to their sound, which is pretty interesting. They got I know Boris got a little bit of flack on their side of the split because they released this their Heavy Rocks, which has that song what is it, Nosferatu, which was on here, and they kind of just recycled it on for the split, which is I don't think I mean it's a good track. It's pretty long too, but this is Boris we're talking about, so they they can do short, long songs. It's kind of like it's hard to tell people where to start with a band like Boris, because it's what are you looking for, right? I know what this is called Heavy Rocks. If you try to look up for Heavy Rocks, it's gonna be like what 3 or 4 iterations of the album with the same title. So you got to go by year.
So isn't this the third one?
This is like the third. It might be the third one, third or fourth. I didn't count. They got so many releases. It's ridiculous.
I like the foil wrap on that.
Yeah, it's kind of what caught my attention. I was like, holy shit! Like I didn't even wasn't aware of this when it dropped. I went to go pick this up, and the guy at the record store, well, if you're picking this up, it's like we also have this, and I was like, ooh, shiny. I was like literally the ooh shiny look.
Yeah.
What a salesman!
It's got a pentagram and a pot leaf.
You knew it, man. Even the Baphomet here has the pot leaf on there. If you look very closely, you might miss it.
Beautiful.
It's right there in his forehead. It's like it's there. So yeah, they went quite pot leaf on this one. It's a good listen though. If hardcore punk is not normally your thing, this is quite interesting and aside enough with the heaviness and whatnot that will still hold your interest if it's not normally your cup of tea. Yeah, really good stuff. I figured I'll probably pull out one more. So there's this band that they've been around for years. I wasn't even aware of, and because they're from New Zealand, and they got a pot leaf thing in their name. It's called 8 Foot Sativa.
I've heard of them.
You familiar with them?
Yep.
And so they play. I guess you can call them a mellow death band, but they got quite a bit of groove. You can tell it's that early 2000s sound. So Season for Assault, right here. Yeah, you're gonna call yourself 8 Foot Sativa. You're expecting something quite different, right? And I feel like
it looks like a beatdown band or something with the.
Yeah, you kind of get that element.
Like
it kind of reminds me
maybe?
of In Flames, right when they were going through that transition, right before they had the mallcore sound, like right before that, where they were still quite in an element of tolerable. I was like, it's like, am I still into this band? I guess before they lost me. I feel like if they would have went this direction, I still would have held on to In Flames if they held on to the sound to what these guys were doing, So they still had that. But the thing is that this cover's deceptive because it makes you sound like it's more brutal, old school death metal than it really is.
The old bait and switch.
It's not bad. I just thought the name and just this whole element, it's a bit misleading for what it is because they don't really, I don't know, like the whole pot leaf thing is not their main thing in their sound. I was just curious if you guys knew about this band, but this is actually not the original
name. I only know the name. I've never actually listened to them.
So that's a melodic death metal band.
Melodic death metal band, with
now I've heard everything.
There's a little bit of core in there.
Nice.
but not enough to put them as balls out metalcore. But you hear those little bit of those elements kind of sneaking in there. But yeah, I kind of saw this sitting there, and I said, you know what, it's only a couple bucks. I said, I'll try my hand at it and see what this is about.
Good pick.
All right, so we are at Brian.
Oh, we're gonna stay in Japan.
Cool.
For my any Church of Misery fans?
Oh yeah.
Well then, okay. This is Sonic Flower. This is the Church of Misery side project. Originally came out in 2003 on Leafhound Records. This is a Heavy Psych Sounds got the rights and re-released this as well as all the other their other two albums that they have out. So this is so Church of Misery has that kind of 70s psychedelic, but really with the heavy like fuzzy doom metal shadow over it. This kind of strips that away and just keeps it to that like 70s heavy rock vibe, psychedelic, obviously with the flower power type stuff going on here. All instrumental, but really catchy and groovy. It's fairly short. There's only 6 tracks, but you can definitely hear that the Church of Misery type, writing sound. A lot of that kind of bell bottom type doom stuff. They have another one called Sonic Flower Rides Again. That's the follow up to this. It's really good too. But this is my favorite of the handful of albums they put out. So yeah, when I don't want to get bombarded with like serial killer references and that stuff, I grabbed the Sonic Flower. They got a really cool song on the B-side called Indian Summer, which is just perfect. It's got this like clean
They
guitar.
nailed that Jimi Hendrix look like really, really well. It's like if they put that in the Jimi Hendrix section in the record store, you'd be in for quite a shock and quite a surprise.
Yeah, I would never
it's
Church of Misery right there.
I know it's total switch on the sound. It's just a little bit more stripped down, back off the distortion a little bit, keep it a fairly type psychedelic type subject matter. No vocals on this though, but yeah, really cool. This is what I got into when I kind of started getting into this whole style in the early 2000s. But I only had it on CDR, so it was cool to kind of be able to pick up some of the stuff that I only had like digital copies of. Heavy Psych Sounds it's put out a lot of cool stuff here recently. That's another cool record label that needs some accolades.
Yeah,
so,
they're pretty good too.
Yeah. There you go.
But you said you got into that early on, but when it comes to Church of Misery, I don't know if that is one I would start with, because the band's quite dark, with their content. You looking at the cover, it's very deceptive. You're thinking it's not their usual fare.
Yeah, I think they have Church of Misery themselves definitely have that dark aesthetic. But their music can get really psychedelic and groovy at times. It's
hard to describe. It's like when you're trying to describe Boris. Like, where do you even begin? They're like all over the map.
Right.
All right. Chris.
Okay, so I'm going to show 3 albums that all are from the same time frame. kind of fit the same sound of the 90s. And that is Bowery Electric, Flying Saucer Attack, and Spacemen 3. So what a lot of this is it's like 90s. I gotta figure the lighting situation here. 90s shoegaze. Really, Spacemen 3. More lo-fi. Guitars, like a lot of reverb on the guitars, really drony. A lot of reverb on the vocals too, but a little more kind of like just stoner, not stoner rock, but maybe a little kind of just more experimental. It musically, it's difficult to describe. But like they have another album, and I have the CD around here somewhere, and it's called Taking Drugs to Make Music to Take Drugs To. So it was definitely definitely stoner friendly, spacey, kind of lo-fi sounding stoner noise.
Is it instrumental? They have they have a vocalist?
Oh no, it's not instrumental, but the vocals are really a lot of reverb on the vocals, so they're really kind of just like that spacey type of sound on the vocals. Good stuff. Flying Saucer Attack. Again, 90s shoegaze, lo-fi, but also a lot of guitar feedback. So drony guitars with a lot of reverb and feedback, and then again just a lot of just like really kind of like My Bloody Valentine type of harmonies with the vocals, and then a lot of reverb on the vocals too. So definitely something where it kind of takes you away to where it really immerses you in a certain type of sound. It's where all of the sounds kind of all fit together, and kind of there's not like one thing that really stands out from the other. So yeah, Flying Saucer Attack, and then Bowery Electric, and this is a great album. This is much more melodic, but also 90s shoegaze, reverb drenched, droning guitars, a lot of reverb on the vocals, female vocalist. So the vocals had a lot more of that My Bloody Valentine influence. Musically a little more not up tempo, but just not as lo-fi and dark sounding as like Spacemen 3 or Flying Saucer Attack. This was really good stuff. Probably I would say that this is kind of more adjacent to something like My Bloody Valentine or Slow Dive from that era. But yeah, all three of these excellent albums, excellent headphone music.
That is are those, would you say those would be difficult to find if some would try to seek out those CDs, considering how old they are?
It's finding them in the wild. It's unlike, I don't know, maybe you could find them, maybe not.
Especially with the noise and that kind of stuff, it's a genre where I'm sure record stores struggle to figure out where to put that stuff. Bands like Slow Dive, right? It's a little a little hard to kind of put and the covers doesn't quite help to pinpoint what you're about to get into. What you're going to be.
The identifiers are all weird on those albums. Like if you're looking for like heavy shoegaze music, I mean, how do you recognize what that is?
Yeah, and then the person probably stocking the shelves doesn't know, so they're just always in rock
It's
pop.
rock.
You know,
That's
but-
cool though, man.
That's why I struggle with Boris. If you go to a record store, you look up for Boris, you can find their albums scattered all over in different sections because you're like, they're in the
Metal,
Sludge section, they're in
rock
the
pop.
yeah. And so it's like, all right, I think Logan.
Yeah, all right. So with this pick, I kind of want to highlight an interesting trend that happened, late '90s, early 2000s, in stoner rock music or desert rock. It was the pipeline from California to Sweden.
Yeah.
How the fuck did that happen?
Yep.
All of a sudden, all these Swedish bands are playing like desert rock that you can envision, like cruising around like the Mars, the Red Planet, or something with that in the background. One of the first, I think, examples of this is a split between Nebula and the band Lowrider. And we got a solid cover there.
Is Lowrider Swedish? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they are.
Huh.
So Nebula is
Hello.
two members from Fu Manchu split off. I believe Eddie
Glass
and
and
the drummer Ruben Romano split off
Romano,
to form Nebula, which I've just been recently getting into them, and I knew Lowrider because of they recently released an album called Refractions in 2020, which I would highly recommend checking out. There's a song called Pipe Rider that is just great stoner rock. As soon as I realized they did a split, I immediately tried to track it down. This is from like 1998, I think. I'm checking right now. Yeah, 1998. So probably pretty early on in that scene of like Swedish stoner rock. And as I said, it just boggles my mind. Here you have a California-based band that it's what you mentioned earlier, Chris, where it's like you can envision the sunsets, the Sunset Strip, or being on Venice Beach, and just the landscape that went into their music. And then you hear the Swedish version, and you're like, well, what are you basing this off of? Like, where is this coming from? These like fuzzy guitars and like kind of laid back grooves. I mean, it's cold as fucking Sweden. What are you? Where are you guys swimming? What's going on
when I hear like southern rock from Europe or something? I'm like, what the hell? Like,
it's definitely similar. I mean, they pull it off. Lowrider pulls it off. Their debut album that came after this, Ode to Io.
I think it's Ode to Low.
Low?
I think it's Ode to Low. That's how you pronounce it.
That's a good album.
Yeah.
And then
just got repressed, I think, on vinyl.
Oh, damn! I might have to buy that later.
Nebula. I think the original guitarist from Fu Manchu started Nebula. I think because there is a connection between them and Fu Manchu.
Yeah.
Eddie Glass.
Yeah.
And you can hear it in their sound for sure. I think they go in a little different direction from Fu Manchu, a little more like retro and 70s oriented rock and roll, and even like more psychedelic influence. I hear it sounds like some early Monster Magnet sometimes in Nebula's songwriting. Lowrider also does a great job on the split, but if you can find this, I would definitely recommend picking it up or just picking up either of the band's materials. And then real quick,
check out the new Lowrider.
Yes, I'd recommend it.
Here we go.
So this is the ultimate Swedish stoner rock band right here, or I guess Swedish desert rock. I mean, if you can find Gravity X, definitely pick that one up.
There's a Truck Fighters like box set of some sort in the record store near me. I'm like,
Yeah.
been eyeballing that thing.
The Cosmic Peddler had it in stock. I just ordered Gravity X on CD. It should be here someday.
And I've been looking for that one for a while. Oh,
This is the one I got.
This is a really good one. Yeah.
Yep. That's it. I mean, this is the
We got all three right here.
Time to flex some Truck Fighters.
Yeah. All right. Turn over the stream, Rick. I've failed. But I mean, Truck Fighters, I think, is the ultimate culmination of that sound, kind of like that desert rock sound from a Swedish band. Which, as it just saying it, boggles my mind. But like,
they picked the perfect name for that too, which is like, just encapsulates all of that.
And it's funny because you can still tell at the same time they're European. I mean, you can tell this is not an American band. Although if you hear that guitar riff for that one song off of Gravity X, what is that one called? Is it the title track, Gravity X?
Desert Cruiser.
Yes,
that one.
Desert Cruiser.
That's what. Yeah,
it's
unmistakable.
It's one of the best songs. Period. So great scene for stoner music, though.
Yeah. That's a good connection.
That's a weird connection. The Sweden desert rock scene. Like, I can't imagine Sweden even having deserts. It just doesn't seem like that type of climate.
Covered in ice, maybe.
Well, even on Mania, they got the chord, and you can see a little bit of like frozen earth there.
They had to wait for the warmest day in July to take that picture.
Yeah,
they found a little dirt, a little.
Their idea of warm is different than somebody from California. When it's like 40 degrees, it's like, all right, we're ready for the shorts. Here we go.
They're like, it's 4 degrees Celsius. Let's go outside.
Yeah.
There's a band called Demon Cleaner out of Sweden. I don't know if you're ever familiar with them.
I have not heard
of them. They sound just like Caius, man. And it's good. They only put out like 2 full lengths. I think it's a one-man thing, actually. Might have had session guys on his stuff. He actually did 3 splits with Dozer.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Yeah. There's a new Dozer coming out soon. And they haven't put anything out in a real long time. I'm psyched about that.
The new song is good. I like the new song.
Okay. I haven't heard it.
It's a little melodic, so.
So Brian pulled the Sonic Flower. So I said, you know what? What's a good thing? And coming from Japan, so I'll just keep that going for this one. It's still in a plastic here. You guys familiar with Acid Mother's Temple?
Yeah.
So they're like they're like a psychedelic kind of band out of Japan, and so they did this collab with Cosmic Inferno. And as soon as I show you the cover, you'll know exactly what they're aping here, right? So here you go. Starless and Bible Black Sabbath.
Oh.
So it's like they really tried to nail that photo shoot to get that, if I can get this thing to focus. But yeah, good stuff. It's basically like just really long jams. Vocals not really too prominent here. It's really about the it's more like putting Pink Floyd through a very psychedelic filter. And then adding touches of that first Sabbath album with a little bit of the bluesy stuff all on the top of it. This is definitely something you want to put on in the background. Put up by Alien 8 Recordings. I know that Acid Mother's Temple, they've been around, I think, since the 90s. So they've had quite a number of releases. It's all pretty good, actually. Again, if this is not normally a thing, I think this is one of the better bands doing it. So if you run across any Acid Mother's Temple in the wild, I would definitely check it out. But I figure for this particular stream would be this would be an interesting pick. They even went as far as there you go, kind of extending that whole scene right here. So
that's pretty sweet.
let's create the first Sabbath album in some way. The actual, again, it just came in this sort of cardboard, in this sort of and I'm glad they did this because
Yeah, I was gonna say at least
because when you get these, they put the CD right in there, and then you worry about things scratching up or whatever. So at least they had the consideration to put this in its own separate envelope here. So hands off to that they decided to take some care into how they package this. Also, speaking of that kind of stuff, here's an instrumental one. So you guys familiar with Clouds Taste Satanic?
Yeah.
So this is a new one for me. This just dropped. I haven't had time to put it on the turntable yet. So I listened to it at Bandcamp. 4 tracks. They're like about almost 20 minutes a pop. So it's a long album. So this is their latest thing. And I gotta say, like, they really upped the musicianship and the quality. I noticed with every progressing release, they just add a little more and more and more. I think when they started out, I think they were like a 2-piece. They were not as full-fledged as they are now. And they were definitely heavy on the doom. They were very, very doomed out in the beginning. And over time, they started adding more and more of the psych stuff. So again, they're based out of New York. They got some humor, so you got Class A Satanic, Cloudy with a Chance of Satan, right here. They always throw in stickers with their stuff. They're pretty good about giving you those nice little goodies with their stuff. Nice thick cardboard. I like what they did here. So here's the emphasis on the psych here with the
That's an epic
Space
whale.
whale.
Yeah,
That's some pretty cool artwork.
it is. The last few are, I think they're using the same artist. I'm not sure. At least they're going for that same kind of aesthetic, which is it's cool. They're really trying to nail the visual with what their sound is like. I think they do a pretty good job on it. So I like that the fact that they went with original artwork for their sleeves too. Yeah, they took really good care about the packaging on this. So it's still on Bandcamp. They got copies of this. The strange thing about this band too is whenever they put out their CDs, they're always so limited. They'll run like 100 copies or something. They're really pushing the vinyl for their stuff for some reason. But yeah, this one here, which is kind of strange, they went for American flag colors for this. I'm not sure why. They have other color variants too. So you don't have to be stuck with just this one. I think they have black, and you can get a squirrel. I forget what else they had on there, but yeah, they're basically instrumental. I've been following them for quite a number of years now. Ever since their first one, like "Come Taste the Doom" or whatever. So for those who don't know, it's like their name is kind of a takeoff of what is it? The Flaming Lips. Because it used to be Clouds Taste Metallic. So yeah, which they sound nothing like Flaming Lips. So they just kind of took that album name, but they went right to Doom. So I'm trying to wrap my head around that. But good band, and I feel like they weren't talked about enough. But they must be getting some headway because they have the budget to throw on. Pushing stuff like this that's a pretty good quality. Just a band trying to push vinyl, just vinyl is already quite a feat. So I know they got to front these costs, they got to get somebody behind all that stuff. But these guys are like, I believe they're independent. I don't think they're signing anybody. Although this says here, Majestic Mountain Records. I don't know if they're actually signed to them. This might have been just a distribution. Not too clear now, but I know that they've been independent for years.
The inside of that gatefold, it looks like it's blue. It's like a pretty heavy looking stock for the jacket.
Oh yeah. This is what I'm talking about. Like the attention to
cool.
detail, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Really heavy stock. They went with the blue. They did not skip on this one. Really happy with this release. So I'm hoping when I put this on the turntable, it sounds just as good as it looks. But I like what I heard on Bandcamp.
It's another band I still have not jumped on. I've seen a name around all the time. Never checked them out.
I would say, but thing about you, I think I already know you're into the doom psych kind of stuff. So I think for you, it would be safe to recommend the more recent material. But for those who are not into the psych kind of stuff, definitely check out their older material. There was less of that kind of thing. It was more balls out heaviness. Very heavy riffing. As they progressed, their sound got a little more and more involved, even a little bit bluesier. They just became better musicians. I think so. They kind of wanted to show that off. All right, and Brian.
All right. So I picked up the new Sasquatch. I guess it's not that new anymore. I guess it's almost a year old. It came out in June 2022. This is a band, 3-piece blues rock band out of California. I'm weird. I'm like hot and cold on this band, depending on the release. I like the first one. I really like the second one. Third one was okay. The next few were kind of not that exciting. And I picked this up blind buy, kind of based on the cover, because their covers also are kind of hit or miss. They got some weird. They got one cover with like a pilot or something that's kind of strange looking, not like a typical stoner doom. But this cover is really cool, kind of fantasy inspired or psychedelic. I don't know. But I started listening to this, and it was just okay. I didn't really think much of it. I didn't dislike it, but it didn't blow me away. And a couple months later, I kind of threw it back in the car, and it finally started clicking. With repetition. I don't know what it is about this band in particular. It's just sometimes they're kind of straightforward, heavy blues rock. Takes me a minute to kind of start to sink in, but after multiple listens, I finally kind of made up my mind on Sasquatch Fever Fantasy. So it was one of my favorites from last year, and I talked about Sasquatch 2 on the last year's 420 stream. I'm kind of working my way back and giving more listens to some of those albums, like Maneuvers and the third one, to try and maybe see if those sink in a little further. But this album is really, really, really quite well done.
Can you figure out what the differentiator is? Like why?
Not really.
It just depends.
It's just I think it's just the songwriting, I guess. It just took a little bit for me to kind of, and it's not like these are like super atmospheric or super long or super distorted. They're just kind of like heavy bluesy rock, barroom rock songs. I'm not sure what the deal was, and it's like not much has changed. It's the same vocalist, it's the same guitar player. I mean, he's the main guy. I think Keith Gibbs. I don't know, but when this band clicks with me, I really, really enjoy their stuff. So
they kind of toe the line between like heavy rock and metal, right? It's kind of like at any one moment,
right? Some of their stuff's heavier, some of it's more blues rock type stuff. Just kind of depends on the song.
Yeah, they haven't clicked with me yet, and I don't know if I've tried the right album, because I've not heard the first two. So
okay, my favorite is 2, hands down. I think it's great. The first one's pretty good. And I really, like I said, this one's pretty cool too. So, they're kind of I mean, they've been around 20 years now. It's kind of
It looks
crazy
like they
to
only put out full
think.
lengths. Like they don't do the EP thing or splits. Right?
Really?
It looks like they just do.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, and fairly consistent too, even though they've only put out 6 albums in 20 years. Like every couple years, every 3 or 4 years, they put out something. I guess the last one before this was 2017, so that's about 5 years. But yeah, just always been one of my just a strange band where it's
You know what? It looks like the members are from all over the place. It says here, I think one of the members is from Michigan. Keith Gibbs, which is the vocalist, is from Philadelphia.
oh, really?
So, like, it looks like they're not all from California. Like it's, which I guess it's a kind of a good thing. If you're looking for different influences, you get a bit of the regional kind of influences, and
Yeah.
probably why they're a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, I know I think they've been based in California for a while. So they remind me a lot of Wolfat, another 3-piece that are kind of in that same style. Blues.
I think when I hear bands or members coming from different areas and it centralized in one area, it does something to make the sound stand out a little more. It's kind of the way I feel about Alice in Chains. Like that's why they were a bit of a redheaded stepchild when it came to like the grunge guys. They never quite fit in with those guys, because I know Jerry and those guys, based in Arizona and and whatnot, not being from the from there. I think it's kind of, that's just one example, of like how I can see that kind of play out. All right, I think who's next? Chris.
Okay. All right. So, let me see here. Okay, so for stoner doom, this band, I was really into them for a while when I discovered them, but I was also a big pothead at the time too. And that's a band, Black Cobra. And
yeah.
Nice pick.
This album called Bestial, and this is really good stuff. They're a 2-piece, and I don't know if they've put anything out recently. I have 3 albums by them, but this is probably the one that I like the most. A lot of very reverby on the vocals, and I think that kind of takes away from the harshness of it in a way. Just all the reverb. It kind of reminds me musically of I can't remember, but it's definitely down tuned and a lot of very distorted and sludgy sounding.
I remember them being a little more upper tempo though, despite being heavy. There's still a little more, like, I guess maybe Higher Fire might be like a one band to describe about that, that sound.
This one, I really like them a lot. But it also too, I think probably my connection with them is that I was really big into them when I was at my most stoned point in life. so I don't know if I have good memories of them or not so good memories of them, but this was still good stuff. It's still a good listen.
I remember liking what I heard. I don't have I think I have one album, can't remember which one it is, but it's not a band that I actively seek out, but it's one of those I always keep in mind. If I see it cheap somewhere, I make a note that this is something that I'll definitely pick up. But this is a band I usually listen to digitally.
I know that like the most recent release I have from them, they put out on Southern Lord. It was called Chronomega. I think this was their first one, and then they have a second one after that that I have. I just can't remember the name of it. But those first 3 I have. Anything if they did anything after that, I can't. I don't know about it.
I'm glad you mentioned the phase thing, because there are moments where like I do drop out of the stoner stuff for months, and not return to it. It's just kind of I don't know. I get into my my brutal death metal phase, and obviously I'm not listening to a lot of stoner during that time. So it kind of just comes in. So bands like Black Cobra go out of my rotation. I forget to revisit it sometimes.
It's tied to the seasons for me a little bit, like the transition seasons, if you will, like fall and spring. Big, like just like chill out, like stoner and sludge and music for me.
Cool. Actually, I think you're next, Logan.
Oh yeah, sick. All right, so I'll stay in Europe for now and highlight another band which you're like, how is this a thing? But out of Ukraine, which thoughts to Ukraine right now, which this album just came out this year. We got a band I picked for two reasons. So one, because of their name, but another because of a certain album which is very hard to find. It's like, to me, it's a stoner classic of, I guess, the 2010s, like the early 2000s to the 2010s. But the band is Stoned Jesus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And this album right here, I mean, the album cover is not super imaginative. It's not like super eye-catching or anything. It doesn't highlight the name at all, which if I had a band called Stoned Jesus, man, that name would be like this. It'd be loud and proud and in front, but they've kind of relegated it to the back of this album cover. This is their new album that came out through Seasons of Mist this year, called Father Light, and this is one of a two-part series. I'm not sure when they're releasing the second album, but it's called Mother Night. So I first want to say that the album that I would recommend anyone who loves stoner doom at all to check out is Seven Thunders Roar. It came out in 2012. It's got like a giant Indian head on the cover, Native American. And it's amazing. It's like very naturalistic in nature. It's really beautiful. When it gets heavy, it gets really heavy. A lot of acoustic passages and stuff, but it still really retains that like desert rock and stoner doom vibe to it. This album is a lot different, and I like it, but I'm not sure if I'm a fan of where they're going. It's a lot more progressive in nature. It's the songs are still long and drawn out, but I hear like Opeth in here, which I'm kind of confused by.
Really?
Yeah, it's like very some of those melodies that Opeth used like during tracks like Window Pane or anything off of Deliverance or Damnation, like that kind of era. It's still really good, and I think kind of stoner doom at its core, but it's not what this band was when I really dug into them. So
they have moments of that folky picking, or really light guitar work, but still melodic. Because when they like Stone Jesus, I would expect something. I remember listening to their material, and none of it really stuck to me that much at the time. I think when I first got into them, that was the one album that had like, the Grim Reaper in the cover or something. And I remember
that was their first, either their first or their third. If it's the third, it's not very good.
I remember the name not going well with the cover though. I'm like, why is there a Grim Reaper and they're called Stone Jesus? I'm trying to make the connection here.
I know. Please listen to their second album, Seven Thunders Roar. Check out the song "I Am the Mountain." So I don't know. This is me kind of hoping that this band is still doing what they did, I guess, over a decade ago. But it's still good. The track "Season of the Witch," track 2 off of here, kind of harkens back a little bit. It's about like 12 minutes long. I'm enjoying it.
But not all their stuff is lengthy like that, right? They have their nice short songs, and then they have their longer. They're a little bit kind of it can go either way.
I think they kind of do what they want, right? 'Cause the album I like is very lengthy, but then their third album, all of a sudden they became like a Red Fang clone. Like all the tracks dropped to about 4 to 5 minutes, and were very more riff oriented and just unnecessarily hard rock, if you will. So I think they lost it on that third album of theirs, and they're regaining it a little bit, but I don't know. Stone Jesus, I think, an underrated band. This would not be the first album I would recommend checking out. Please check out Seven Thunders Roar.
Go ahead. Seven Thunders Roar.
Mhm.
All right. I'll check it out. All right.
Yeah, I've not heard of that band either. I mean, I think I've heard the name, of course, but I don't think I've ever checked them out. So it's going on the list.
It fits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, where are they from again?
The Ukraine.
Ukraine. Holy shit. Yeah, that's interesting. It's not something I hear much coming from there. You know, I got quite a bit of stuff from the Ukraine, but it's usually black metal. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not stoner or sludge or anything like that.
Not the first thing I think about from that region. I mean, there's plenty of reasons to light up there, you know, and try to escape because there's a lot of shit going on, you know, in that part of the world. I'll pull up some, I guess some retro rock, which I guess would fit this category. This is a band I discovered a while back. They're from, I want to say Connecticut, and it's called Lord Fowl. So this is their second album, Moon Queen. I don't know if you've ever are familiar with them, but this was put up by, I don't know if you're familiar with Small Stone Recordings. Stone Recordings. They tend to put out stuff like this, and then you know it's
Small Stone.
I
recognize that center label right away.
Yep. You kind of have an idea what their sound might be like, but yeah, I mean, these guys really good musicianship. I mean, their first album kind of didn't grab me, but this one I still got to grab their. So they got 3 full lengths that I'm aware of, so I still need to grab that one. But this is where I came in with the band, and yeah, really jammy guitars. You kind of hear bits of that. They're a little Thin Lizzy inspired, but they're just laxed enough where they can fall into that category that would appeal to people into stoner rock. And yeah, I like that they went with a heavier stock for this, even though there's not like. At least I got this used, so I think this didn't come with an insert. It probably didn't because all the lyrics, man, they did fill up this back cover. It's like all the lyrics and everything are right here, like. So I can see why they didn't need an insert.
The magnifying glass.
This will kick your ass though. It's very very catchy. You familiar with Mothership? And I think Brian, you sent me a Mothership album.
Mothership from Texas, yeah.
Yeah, if you like Mothership, you might like this.
Definitely.
You know, and again, they have a bit of that retro sound. These guys might be even more, more of that kind of a retro sounding. And what caught me too was that song right here, "Woman King." And then that kicks ass, and that's a cover, which I believe is, if you're familiar with Iron and Wine,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a cover.
Iron and Wine cover.
Yeah, it's from his EP, the Woman King EP, and so they do a cover of this, but it's more rocked out. I know this is a folky, kind of more of a I guess indie thing.
Iron and Wine puts me to sleep.
Yeah, so you know, again, if it's not normally your thing, so if you think it's going to sound like that, they really pick it up. It's very jammy, very catchy. So they did a really good job in that cover. So I wish more people knew about it. Sticking to that old sound, you know what? Because I actually meant to pull this last year. I don't think I pulled this band, so I figured I'm also bringing them up here. Brimstone Coven. know if you guys are fans at all.
A little bit.
So they're out of Virginia, and man, talk about if you're looking for something that's going to catch you right away. It just has like the nice vocal harmonies. I get kind of like think of the best moments of Blue Oyster Cult. You know, when those guys are coming together and they got that nice soulful voice. You know, but they also bring the riffs. The riffs are really killer on this. And you would swear if I put this on a turntable and I said this is something I picked up during the 70s, you would believe me. It's the production on this really you can tell these guys are very old school, very about that sound. So I think this is their latest one. Yeah, it says right here, dark occult rock, which comes to mind, and you're thinking of bands like like Blue Oyster, but it still has enough of that. What do you call it? Stuff going on. I think would be really good for people who aren't into stoner rock. They could definitely get into. They actually, I thought I pulled it. It was their, yeah. I found this band through this release, Black Magic, and here's where you can kind of see a little bit more of that stoner element here, stoner doom look to it. But
that witchy element that you like, Rick, too.
Which I thought it was more witchy element than it was. It's actually more. Again, they're not even the Metal Archives because again they lean more in that sort of rock territory, classic rock kind of sound. It's a little bit of a, I don't know, I don't know if it's psychedelia would be the best way to describe it, but I do hear some influences of that in there too. But yeah, I mean, something a little, what you call it, a little more like what you might hear on the radio, but without trying to sound all that commercial, but still quite catchy. Brimstone Coven, really good shit. So definitely recommend it. I probably would say maybe start with this new one. You can kind of work your way back. The Wolves of Immortal Earth. But I did enjoy Black Magic. This is a pretty good release. All right. I think we're back to Brian.
Back to me. All right. Here's an album I came across last year that I really, really enjoyed. This is Lopan from Columbus, Ohio. 2019, they put out an album called Subtle. And this is it. Lopan, I think they're putting that stoner rock, stoner metal category. And I'm not super familiar with their previous albums. I'm somewhat, I've listened to them, but not enough to really have a good familiarity with it. But this has kind of like an AOR rock kind of sensibilities to it. It's got some grunge. It's got some definitely like stoner rock type. I don't know, housing to it, I guess. I don't know. It's got a lot of catchiness, and then definitely has. For some reason, I keep going back to this sound that like maybe something like Jimmy Eat World, like Bleed American, like came up with this kind of indie, distorted kind of indie sound. You know what I mean?
I got into them around the what you call the Colossus album, and I remember thinking like how accessible their sound were. I'm like, this is something I could play in the car when my friends are not feeling the metal or whatever, that they, that's very digestible.
Right.
I think they're one of the better bands doing it.
Yeah, that's yeah. There you go. You nailed it right on the head. Very catchy. Songs are very memorable. I think side B, simply the song called "Bring Me a War" is just super infectious and catchy. Really like this band. I've checked out. I also have their EP Intentions. I have Sasquatch, but I have not listened to it quite enough. I don't know. For some reason, this album just, for a while there over the summer, I was listening to it every day. And so I think it was one of the Bandcamp Fridays. I picked up the record. And I think I might have sent. They sent me an extra copy of EP, and I think I sent it to you, right?
Yeah, and it's good.
Yeah. Cool, really cool, but Midwest band. They were actually supposed to tour, or they were supposed to come through my area last fall, maybe, and I think maybe one of the members had a cancer diagnosis and had some treatment for that. But I think they're playing live again and hopefully working on some new. But I think this album's terrific, so definitely check that out. And kind of as another band that's kind of in that same realm that has a lot of catchiness is this Howling Giant that I saw live with King Buffalo last year. They are from Tennessee, maybe Knoxville, but has a lot of like prog rock thrown into the mix. Their bass player is named Sebastian Baltus, and his father is actually the original bass player from Accept out of Germany. So they have that metal connection, which is kind of cool.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah, it is kind of a cool connection. They're touring right now they're about to go on tour, I think, with Elder coming up this spring. So I think this is a concept album. It's called The Space Between the Worlds. Another one of those like kind of like Lopan where it's really accessible and really catchy. They write good songs. They have a lot of variation. They got some upbeat stuff. They got some slower stuff. Atmospheric. I highly recommend this band to anyone who likes kind of the more proggy space rock type stuff. So that's Howling Giants. What did you think of it, Logan?
Man, it's fun. It's fun as shit. That's all I'm gonna say. It's like adventure rock, really. Yeah.
And I think it's a concept record.
Mm-hmm.
And you can definitely feel the story. What the main character is going through.
There's a band I've been pushing, like for those who are like into if you like Lopan, it's because Lopan are out of Ohio, right? And
yeah, Lopan's Columbus.
This is a band called Cortez, Cortez, based out of Boston, and they kind of remind me of them. So they kind of and if you like that sound and you like that, kind of just the way they rock out and just how digestible it is and just just easy to get into. Cortez kind of has that same feel. So I would definitely check it. This is their latest one. It's Sell the Future. It's a really good.
Yeah, I'll check out
Cortez.
And it's funny both those albums, the Howling Giant and the Lopan. Once I heard them, it was hard for me to move on. I kept going back day after day after day. It was like repeat listens. Even today.
It's a good pairing of bands too. I honestly didn't think about that. Even though I got them at the same time from you.
Okay, you probably did.
I didn't think of them as like a band you could listen to like back to back. Lopan, Howling Giant, but I think they both have that palatable kind of just fun.
Yeah, I tell you, and when I saw Howling Giant the first time when they opened for King Buffalo, they were having so much fun on stage, just playing the music, just being there and playing live for people. So if you get a chance to see them with Elder, they're playing with Ruby the Giant or Ruby the Hatchet too. So it's going to be a really great show.
That's one band I've been wanting to see live, despite the fact that they're from Philly. I've
never
seen Ruby yet.
That's the way it goes.
The latest one. Chris, you're next.
All right, cool. I'm going to show a couple, and then I got to bail. Okay, so this is going back to one that was a great Doom record when I heard it. Great through headphones, And I just talked about it Sunday night when I did my solo stream. That is Warhorse As Heaven Turns to Ash.
Oh yeah.
This is a really good doom metal album. The thing about it is it sounds terrible. Like it's the mastering or something. Just I have the CD for this as well, and it sounds awful. I know that there was a reissue that Southern Lord did, so I don't know if maybe maybe they went in and remixed it or remastered it or something, but this is a really good doomy, and again, you know, it's not necessarily, it's not like a stoner album, but it was just something where at the time I was big into headphones and, you know, put something on, so it was really good to listen to through headphones. And after I smoked a little bit, so I really liked this one a lot. And then another one here. Again, this is doom, not stoner doom, but kind of, I call it spooky doom because it's just kind of a little more trippy. And then Bloodlust by Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats.
Oh, yeah.
And this one, there's something about the vocals on this are just so eerie sounding. Like when I heard this the first time, I was just like, wow, like I've just never heard vocals like that before. Just like, you know, whatever they did to them was just sounded so cool. And but yeah, definitely very cold sounding. I mean, it's like with me, like when I smoke, I can listen to anything. It's kind of like, I mean, you guys know some of my other guilty pleasures that I listen to. And I mean, I can listen to anything, but it's like, you know, say if a certain female vocalist is on the turntable, you know, I can listen to that when I'm high because it's just I just take in the music more, I guess. But now this is the second press. I have two copies of the first press. They were released that I ordered from Rise Above. But yeah, this was really good album. I've always thought Uncle Acid were pretty solid. Like everything that they put out.
Yeah, I had a hard time explaining it to people just because they don't quite fit, you know, like a lot of other bands. Even like you said, with the vocals and everything. Like, how do I compare them to anything? It's they always stood out to me. It's being unique.
Yeah. Really spooky vocals, and that's why I just kind of call it spooky doom. You know,
is that their first one?
This is their first one, their first official album. There was one that they released just as a CDR before this one, that was then later reissued.
Okay,
you know, after a couple albums later on. But this is the first officially released one. Like the CDR one, supposedly there were only like 200 ever that were sold at shows, you know, as CDRs, and that's it. But it's called Volume 1, and it's red and it has a skull on it with like a psychedelic thing in the head. I've always liked their graphics. They've had some good art direction on some of their album artwork too. So yeah, there's that one, and then of course I feel like this one is a given. Houdini by the Melvins. I mean, this is such a classic album. You know, it's just awesome.
I'm glad you went with that one, not the obvious like Stoner Witch, right? I think unless you did.
It's close. It's close by.
You mean this one right here?
At any given day, it could be either or for me.
Yeah. I really like Bullhead a lot. That one's grown on me over the years. And Lysol is another one that's really good. I mean, I love the Melvins. I do. I've listened to them consistently for so long. You know, You know, some of their albums are hit or miss or whatever, but they're also always awesome live.
I remember
too.
back in high school, like, you know, back in the 90s, and my friends always lumping them with grunge, but to me, they never quite fit the mold of what I
Right.
defined grunge at the time. You know,
Yeah.
the terminology is a little more defined today, but back then I didn't know what the term sludge was not thrown around much. You know,
Yeah.
people just used like a lazy catch-all term, like the way people use the word alternative. It's a lazy catch-all term.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, like, and then, you know, I guess because back then they, you know, were from Seattle. So I guess they just were lumped into the whole grunge thing because they were from Seattle. But, yeah.
Yeah. And they pretty much, I mean, Buzzo and those guys were playing since the early 80s, you know, and like, so everybody knew who they were, and they pretty much opened and played, you know, or bands have opened for them,
Yeah.
you know, back in the day. And I remember, like, so they were kind of they were a band where, like, they were so variable with their style and so flexible that you could have booked them with anybody. It must have been cool to be doing the booking, because, like, if somebody bailed out, you'd be like, well, we can get these Melvin's guides on board. It's like, and they'll fit with whatever bill was going on in the area at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
That's a good point.
Melvins are one of my favorite bands just over the years. They've always been awesome.
Yeah, I was going to bring them up for this one, but I said, you know, I just talked about them on the Easter video, so I was like, you know what, don't want to double dip here.
What was your Easter Melvin's pick, Rick? Was that the God album?
Yeah, Working with God. That's an unusual album, but I kind of was just highlighting that, just the humor, you know, like, and that's the way that's another thing about them is, you know, they were easy to get into, because not so much also because of the music, but also because if you just like that sense of humor, these guys never took themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
You know, which is also what I loved about them.
And they've also always had excellent art direction with their album art. You know, like one that I always really liked a lot for the album art is Bullhead. I always liked, you know, this album art a lot. I always, you know, this was definitely really unique, you know. So
yeah, that's a
fruity album cover.
Gives me memories. I remember going through their stack, especially back in the day. And even when I was on the those music services, if you pay a penny and they send you an album every month, you know, and I remember always it seemed like they were putting out releases all the time. There was always something new. You know, they were just pumping out fucking albums left and right.
Yeah.
I think a senile animal has to be one of my picks for Melvin's album.
Yeah, that's a good one, from when they were kind of like with the guys from Big Business.
Oh yeah.
And, yeah, so Big Business and Melvin's, when they were like a 4-piece, that's all really good stuff. Yeah. Very
bass heavy.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, guys, it was a great stream. I got to jump off.
Yeah. Thanks for hopping on and, you know, just being part of this for this year, man. Because you know, it's something that kind of we've been trying to do every year. At least acknowledge it, because who else is doing this? Like, I don't know anybody else that is. But
bring stoner love to the stoners and non-stoners.
Yep.
And so Rick, thanks for the invite. Logan, Brian, good to chat, and we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, see you later.
All right,
dude.
Cool. I think that leaves it up to you.
Me. All right. So quick. One of my picks was that Warhorse album. That was a great call. I think. I just want to highlight it's one of the, I think, bridges between like stoner doom and like desert rock, because there's a lot of dynamic on that album.
Yeah, every time I see it brought up, it's very highly mentioned, very highly rated, and highly praised.
I would recommend it. I'm dropping or will have dropped maybe a response to a Sin Arcadia video about doom metal.
You didn't see my comment about that, did you?
I did, and it'll be there, and this will be one of the albums.
It'll be resolved. Okay.
It'll be resolved.
Cool.
So for my actual pick, I'm gonna dive into probably one of my favorite kinds of sludge stoner. I mean, it's sludge. I love the sludge metal. Just it's pissed off. There's a lot of noise, very riff oriented, and I think there's a certain sludge metal scene which is kind of underrated. It's that Midwestern sludge scene. Does not get talked about as much. One of my all-time favorite bands from the scene have to be Wake.
Oh yeah.
Voices of Omens.
They're on Relapse, so they got a big push.
I mean, and this came out in 2007, so I was around when their follow-up Rest came out in 2011, but since then I've not heard much about these guys. So just want to mention that if you're looking for the heaviest like riffs that sludge can offer, this is the album right here. And these guys are ambitious in their songwriting too. Most of these songs here are about like 10 to 12 minutes. There's a lot of blues, a lot of like black metal atmospherics kind of, or it's a very atmospheric listen. You have to be fully engrossed in this. The two opening tracks, The Finality and Crooked Rivers, are probably some of the best like sludge songs I can think of. The riff that opens up Crooked Rivers is top notch.
If someone was just getting into that band, because it's funny because you're showing the CD and there's this big old hype sticker on there and it has like these mentioned names in there. I mean, would you say that's a good description of if you're into those bands, you know, you would be into Rake?
You got some classics on there, and then you got some like.
Sometimes they're off with that stuff, especially Relapse. They've misled me a few times.
They definitely have. They threw like if you're a fan of Slayer, check out Pig Destroyer. And not quite the same. This one they say if you're a fan of Mastodon, I Hate God, Early ISIS, Baroness, and Dystopia.
And Old Man Gloom.
In Old Man Gloom, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say
on.
There, honestly, that is leading me to a probably a solid consensus for this band. It's a mixture of I Hate God and probably ISIS and Neurosis. Like it's like post metal meets like really pissed off, like the depressive, suicidal kind of sludge stuff that I Hate God did.
Where are they from?
Yeah,
Arkansas.
They're from Little Rock in particular, right?
Yeah, Little Rock. I don't know if they're just like neighbors or if they share members, but I want to mention this band real quick too. This is Deadbird.
Deadbird, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is their album Twilight Ritual. One of the first sludge bands that I found, and was a little much for me in the beginning because this is like Rake or Wake. It's very drawn out. There's some post and bluesy influences in here, and it just takes time to kind of like ingest all of this music because it's like an hour-long listen.
I'm glad you mentioned that because sometimes like with I noticed with Rake too, like it pays off, man. Like
it does.
It's an art to be able to pull that off because you can really lose people if you don't know how to hold their interest with these really long tracks. I think Deadbird are also one of those bands that kind of fall in that category. It shows you, it's a testament to how good they are at what they do.
Yeah,
they're able to hold their interest.
Yeah, they both succeed at the long, like sludge and just really more atmospheric and like post metal infused sludge. For Deadbird, definitely check out the track "Death of the Self." It's track number 2 off of here. That song just kicks ass. And then they also released an album on $20 Spin back in I want to say like 2017 or 2018,
Wow.
called the Hidden Forest, I believe, which I would highly recommend that album as well. I mean, this might still be my first pick, but I mean, you can't go wrong with Dead Bird.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That's yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
man.
the forest within the tree is what it's called. I mean, Hidden Forest is wrong. It's the forest within the tree.
It's got like 3 right in the title too.
Yep. Yeah.
I
Their
remember
third
that,
album,
yeah.
great name, but they kind of streamlined their songwriting a little bit on that one. Like it's got a little bit more of that Savannah sludge sound, like that Baroness and Kylesa. Like
I was gonna say the
simpler,
cover art reminds me of
chorus.
quite a bit.
Yeah, it's simpler and more chorus driven and a little more immediate than like Twilight Ritual. So both of those albums are great. I would recommend Dead Bird and definitely Wake.
I think I might have gotten one of those Relapse 20 CD boxes, and they had a Rake.
They might have had
Rake.
They either had a reissue of one of their earlier albums or Rest. I bet they did not have this one. This is the album right here to me.
I don't think it was that one. It was
definitely also the track Leviticus has one of the cooler melodies and like just riffs that kind of like bridge together beautifully.
I wonder, as far as Relapse goes, like how much of that stuff do they sell? Because they push a lot of it, and I wonder, like, as far as because I noticed the reason I'm mentioning this is because lately I've noticed they made a shift to more of the hardcore oriented kind of stuff, and it kind of been leading back on the more, I guess, experimental sludge doom kind of stuff, because that was the big thing for them for a while. So it's kind of, I was just wondering, it's just like just the way their sales are going, it's just a trend for them. Yep. This is why I'm glad we're doing this stream, because like kind of bring back a new appreciation. People may overlook these bands.
I think as your answer, just what Brian said, you buy a grab bag. There it is.
Yeah.
It's dead stop.
And that's a band I mean they had ads all over, so, and I'm sure I think I probably downloaded an album or two to check out, but nothing ever clicked with me. I don't think I've heard Voices of Omen, so
I think you would like that one. I would recommend it.
I do remember checking out Dead Bird. I like Dead Bird.
Yeah, that I was buying a lot of $20 spin stuff around when that third album, that third Dead Bird came out, and I remember seeing that at the record store, which is funny because I remember at the time that was a Vinyl Altar. He had that. It was sitting next to an Ulthar album.
Yeah.
And I remember both being very detailed artwork at the time, and it just like there was like a lot of stuff going on, and I remember looking at both. I think I might have picked up the Ulthar that day though. But I remember just specifically looking at that album because the artwork was really, really eye-catching.
The Hidden Forest one?
Yeah. I think the grab bag may be the way to go. And how a lot of us may have gotten into some of these bands that we may not have seeked out on our own. How we get into the Red Fangs and stuff like that, which is I don't know if you guys have picked up a Relapse grab bag lately. I don't know what they're putting in.
A few years.
Oh, New Year's?
No, I said it's been a few years.
Never.
Have you recently?
That's why I was asking. I don't know what they're throwing in there nowadays. Are they still trying to get rid of some of that stock?
I'm sure they are. Like I remember I got a few decent things, but some of it was like some of that Steve Moore soundtrack work. He's the guy behind Zombie, which I personally like. And then some of that like Pinkish Black, if you remember that band.
I have one of theirs.
There was I think that I got a Lord Mantis CD, which is cool.
That's a good find.
A Dying Fetus later album, like Descent into Depravity or something like that.
Yeah, I'd be really happy, if they throw in something like that.
A couple Tombs albums.
I'd get, if I was getting anything with extreme metal, it'd be like it was usually some kind of grind or core grind. It just shit that's not moving quite a lot for them, and I can tell all right, I can see why they throw this in the grab bag. I got okay. So was bringing up some Southern Lord stuff. I know Chris brought up some and I've been subscribing to the Gimme Vinyl Metal. I don't know are you familiar with that?
Familiar, yeah. I've never ordered though. It's a monthly.
It's monthly. You
can opt out
a month if there's something that you did. You know what you're getting like the following month. They'll tell you.
Right.
But you can also you can pause it if you're like, okay, I'm not feeling this one. You can skip a month if you want.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up with this one.
The Big Black, yeah.
Big Black. I remember listening to this one back in the day, getting into this kind of stuff. Came in this nice sort of it's got a rise above etching. So it's a double LP. I'm hoping that it'll pick up on the light. Let's see.
Yep. I just saw it. Yeah. Well, that's sharp.
Cool.
But is that side just an etch side? Is that a D side?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool though.
As a matter of fact, it even has like I don't know if it'll pick it up. But it actually has like a glitter. I don't know if you can see it. Shit.
Doesn't pick up the glitter.
Damn it. Because it looks like a solid color, but it's actually glitter. So
it's like it's like that soap you can buy that's got like the granules in it,
Yeah, kind of.
That
Pay $5 extra for those granules.
Well worth it. It makes your hands feel all clean when you're over.
If you go to Pluto, you're gonna need it, especially on the motorcycle.
On a motorcycle, yeah,
that's true.
Your interstellar motorcycle.
Look at these guys. So here's a little tidbit. I don't know.
Swedish.
I didn't know this for like a long time. They started out as a death band.
Oh yeah,
they did. They're British.
Yeah, they used to be.
They're British.
Yeah, I didn't know that. It's actually on YouTube. You can listen to it. It's not bad. I was wondering, like, at some alternate timeline, if they would have kept with that sound, they probably would have. They would have been like another Morgan,
Cool.
But instead, they went this direction. I think at the time, a lot of those bands, even like a lot of death metal bands, were getting into the death and roll, and some of them just went straight rock. Like Zeisma and those bands.
Well, if you remember, I was gonna say, the Carcass dudes,
Spiritual Beggars over here.
Yeah, Michael Amet formed Spiritual Beggars with the lead singer from
Arch Enemy,
Grand Magus.
Oh,
right. That's JB or JP or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Who's got a great voice. And then Bill Steer left, and he formed that stoner rock band called Firebird that put out a few albums, right?
I feel like that's a check mark on these bands' resumes. It's like we do all this brutal extreme shit, but we got to do the one stoner sludge album. It's like it's just got to be there on the,
it's feel good. It's feel good music,
Talk about another one I got from the Gimme Vinyl is this first Goat Snake right here.
Oh, nice.
It's a good pick.
So definitely. It's still one of their best, actually. They put it in this nice purple, which is again. I think for this kind of thing, to me it's an essential classic. But what a lot of people may not know is that that's not the original album cover. Have you seen the original album cover?
No.
Which is it's ridiculous. I might even let me share the screen because it's kind of ridiculous. If I can pull it up here. Here it is. the biker and there's a Confederate flag in the back.
The feds are coming. What is...
So it's this thing, and I didn't see it coming. I believe that image is only used on the CD pressings, and then later on, I'm not sure if maybe because I don't think it was on Southern Lord. This was put out, and I think it might say it here. Yeah, Man's Ruin Records. Southern Lord. Eventually, pretty recently.
Rise Above had it. Had a license to it.
The Man's Ruin LP had a different cover too. It had a literal goat on there for their LP. Only the CD had a better flag.
They're based out of San Francisco. I think they put out that first Yob album. They put a bunch of, or maybe the first Sleep.
The first Sleep.
A lot of stoner stuff from the late 90s.
Yeah, they're
Ask the King.
Huh.
Alabama Thunder.
Ask the King, yeah.
I think Southern Lord was just getting started too, right around that time. They put out, I think, that Thor's Hammer. I think it was one of their first ones.
They did a lot for Goat Snake too. Southern Lord, because isn't that what's his name's band from?
Greg Anderson.
Greg Anderson, yeah. Which, man, he is in a bunch of bands. Could have pulled some side projects of him for sure.
Yeah, and that Easter video, I was just talking about that Lord project he's in. Like, that's yet another one, that he's on. All right, so what you got, Brian?
My last couple of picks here. All right. We're talking about some Euro stoner, so I thought I'd throw this one in. This is Sahara Surfers, 2010 from Austria. I like the actual CD too. It's got a camel. So definitely desert rock. But where this is one another one that I had on CDR and played it to death. And then in the last year, I started kind of trying to track down physical copies, and this one was a little tougher to find than I was expecting. I think it was independently released, 2010. I found some Euro seller, I think based in Italy. I don't know. He had it. Well, I purchased it. And he sent me messages like, I'm on holiday. I don't know if it's at this house or another house he lived at or something. So he said, when I get back, I'll look for it. And if I find it, I'll send it to you. So 2 months later, I think I got a message. They said, oh, well, I have it. So he finally sent it, and it came from, Greece or Italy or where he was from. And it only had a couple teeth missing, on the jewel case. So I was happy. Anyway, desert rock, psychedelic, female vocals. Julia Uberbacher has an amazing voice. So that's why I brought this up, because I know Rick loves female voices in doom, and I think you should check this out.
I do too. What is the name of this band again? It's
the Sahara Surfers.
Alrighty.
So straight up, think.
Never heard of them.
I mean, think Truck Fighters. Think Caius. Maybe a little spacier. She's got a powerful voice though, so that her voice really kind of takes charge of the songs. But the songs are super catchy.
That's another country I don't hear this stuff coming from.
Riffs. I know, Austria, right?
I think we mentioned Ukraine earlier.
Yeah. So it's kind of these weird kind of abstract artwork. I don't think they're active anymore. I have not heard anything other than this. I think they have a couple after this and then broke up. But Space Trip on a Paper Plane is the title of that. One of my favorites from when I first started getting into this style. And then
you would not get clued in from that cover image, you know.
no, it
at
I mean, it
all.
looks kind of like a
Well, you
like
showed
an
the CD.
indie.
It had a big camel on it, which that would have been more appropriate for. You know, remember that band Egypt? It kind of reminds me of them.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, that's something they would do.
And then this one's from Greece. This is another band I've been getting big into recently. Acid Mammoth.
Oh, nice.
This is Caravan. So they're big fuzzy doom, kind of a little more on the occult side, I would say. The vocalist sounds a little bit like Papa Emeritus from Ghost on that first record, without going up into the highs or anything, just kind of that kind of nasally, vocal pattern, very kind of repetitive and fuzzy, big kind of long, just big lumbering riffs. Good psychedelic occult doom. Definitely, I've been showing a crap load of like stoner rock. This is definitely on the metal side for sure. This is their latest.
Would you describe them as a little more accessible for people just getting into this? Like, is that something?
Oh yeah. It's definitely. It's definitely big riffs. It's definitely got the Sabbath vibe for sure. So it's nothing too overly distorted or overly extreme. Definitely accessible. I think. This is another one that got their lyrics on the back cover.
I'm a sucker for that stuff, man. The whole like otherworldly with the planets and that like when I showed that Cloud State Satanic thing earlier, like that's the kind of stuff I like, man.
Yeah.
When it comes to that kind of imagery.
Yeah, I've been wanting to get an album from them for sure. So that will be the one I will check out.
I tell you, they're all very solid. I don't think I have a preference of the three. I think they're all very good. Yeah, I have all three. I bought them all at the same time, actually. I was like, I like them all. I'm gonna get them. So
that's the thing, man. I wait for that sale, Heavy Psych or somebody will run these sales, and I'm like, you gotta jump on that.
I think I did one of those. I think they were a part of one of the split series that Heavy Psych does. The
Doom Sessions.
The Doom Sessions. I think they did a Doom Sessions split. I don't remember which band they did it with, but that'd be another one I probably need to track down.
Cool.
Add it to the list.
Yeah, never ending.
All right. Logan.
All right, I'm sticking with some Sludge for this round. We show two more Sludge bands.
All good.
Brian, I want to know if you know this band right here. I should have pulled them when we did the Weedian stream. From Illinois, we got the band In Crust.
I don't know them at all.
Dude.
In Crust.
Add this to your list. Honestly, this is along with that Stone Jesus album, that Wake album. Sorry, I have cats fighting in the background. God damn it.
They're fighting over your affection.
They totally are.
Or the spilled beer on the floor.
You're like that guy talking about.
I might have to go break them up real quick. I don't know. All right, let me see if I can fit this in. So,
take care of your family squabble first.
All right. No, In Crust. Chicago Sludge. Very riff heavy, very like there's a little bit of death metal in here, kind of, but then at the same time, all it cares about is the riff, and it's just supremely heavy. I would definitely check out the opening song, "Predatory Skin." I'll leave it with that. Please check out that. I'm gonna go kick some cats, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, I think it's desperately needing your attention.
I love it.
This is why Logan will put out more videos. It takes so much attention away from the cats.
The cats need to be. He needs to put out the catnip because that's going to put them into a space where they're not going to be fighting. Maybe they put on a little electric wizard.
I guess that's the cat way of going to Pluto. You know.
Yeah,
like...
that takes them to another stage of consciousness, another level of consciousness.
Oh man. So what's your stack looking like? I got a few more here, but
yeah, I got one. I got one more, and then I got a maybe a Bandcamp one, and a digital only I could show or talk about for a sec.
Okay, yeah. If you need me to pull up something for whatever,
yeah, I'll do that last.
Digital.
I'll do that last.
I can share the screen. All right. Cool. All right. So you're good.
I mean, I do have one more Sludge one I wanted to show.
Yeah. Well, I'll pull you up.
Okay, real quick. Eagle Twin.
Yeah.
Out of Utah, I think Salt Lake. But this is their second album, The Feather Tip, The Serpent's Scale. Brian, you sent me their first one.
The Unkindness of Crows.
The Unkindness of Crows.
Did you have that?
No.
Oh, good. I love that album.
I'm psyched because I love this album right here. I've been wanting to get more of their stuff.
That's funny. I never heard that.
The album that came after this one is great too. The Herd, I think it's called, but this one is very it's a lot more ritualistic, very steeped in Native American culture and stuff. And the songs are very conceptual in nature and drawn out. It's like one song is like 20 minutes and kind of blends together. But the guitar tone and the riffs that are in this album, top notch. The first piece, the Ballad of Job Kane, is great. Horn Snake Horns, track 4 is also great. I would definitely recommend this one. So, Brian, if you like The Unkindness of Crows, this is probably up your alley as well.
Oh yeah, I
I
see.
don't know
Here,
why I stopped there.
out of Salt Lake. Cool.
Yeah. And this is a Southern Lord album, which, I mean, that label has done so much for this kind of music.
Yeah.
You got to respect Southern Lord.
I think between them and maybe like Rise Above, although they're more about the doom. But they got quite a bit of that stoner there too.
Oh, Rise Above should be mentioned for sure. All right, thank you. Sorry about the family.
We needed a break.
Familial squabble.
I got a few. So talking about like really good guitar driven stuff. This is kind of a new band actually, and they released this album back in I think last fall. I don't hear mentioned all that much. So they are from, I want to say Finland, called Green King. Hidden Beyond Time. So this is actually they do have that retro sound. I mean, they're going for that classic heavy metal, but it's very it's a little more upbeat. It's got quite a lot of energy. You hear elements of Thin Lizzy. So it's like if Thin Lizzy was a heavy metal band. They were heavier, a little faster. I think you might get some of this. Put up by the Sign Records, which is not a label I'm familiar with. But just looking at that, can't quite make out what you're getting into until you read the name. that kind of caught my attention. Yeah, really good tracks. I think God Killer is probably one of my favorite ones here. I would say, being that this is their first album, I think this is a band where, being how strong this is, I think there's still some areas where they can kind of improve on, and I mean particularly the vocals. I feel like the vocals are a little underdeveloped, but I think the guitar is what shines on this album. It's a really what held my attention. But I think that if they're able to expand on this on their follow up, this is the band you're going to be hearing much about. I think they're going to make a lot of noise. They really, I just see that potential all over on this. So, Green King, yeah, again out of Finland. Finland, yeah, yeah, I believe so. So, nice. I always look out at these, like this is the signed records, and once I'm not familiar with, and another thing I pay attention to is the kind of quality of the presentation. This is done in really good stock, so it kind of shows you that they're willing to put the money down, for these kind of bands that they sign on, and it was at again, here's I think I showed it. Give it a nice purple. I kind of would have preferred green if they had that available. But I'm
with the hot wave stamped on it.
Another one here. If I'll go back to the school of Electric Wizard. So have you guys heard of Confusion Master?
No.
This is a great band, man. Like I think this is the latest thing they put out. I think they have like maybe 2 other releases. I think it's called Awaken, the last one. But this is kind of like take Electric Wizard and add the whole Lovecraftian theme all around it. You could, I mean, just look at that. You can kind of already see it. And I would say for those people who can't get into Electric Wizard, maybe they're maybe too lo-fi for them, and maybe they're just a little too little drawn out. Those kind of odds and ends that you may not, the reasons you may not like Electric Wizard, I think these guys are a little more polished in that department. They're a little cleaner. The production's just a little, they're a little heavier in places. Because I know that Chris brought up Electric Wizard earlier, and we were talking about the moment where we dropped off with that band. I feel like this band kind of picks up for the same reasons we dropped out of Electric Wizard. I think this band kind of just picks up the mantle and improves on why we might have dropped out of that band. But this will definitely hold your attention. This is some really, really good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and get more of their material. But I would say, oh yeah, they went ahead and included this CD with this. Look at this thing.
Oh, very nice.
That's a nice touch.
I wasn't expecting that at all. I didn't know it included a CD. So it's a lot more easier for me to digitize this. But yeah, awesome shit. Exile on Mainstream Records. That's another one. So yeah. So if I see this, if I see their other one on Cosmic Peddler or whatever, definitely I'm definitely gonna snatch it, but I definitely would check it out. They're on Spotify too, or in those services if you want to get an idea what they're like. But I would say you hear a lot of Electric Wizard. Oh, what was that?
Thanks.
I just downloaded that on Spotify. Yeah.
Yeah, this and the last album, I think they're both pretty strong. I just happen to have the physical for this one, but yeah, really good stuff. Oh yeah. Before I move on, you showed that that Encrust, which is more death metal oriented, right? So I pulled this. This is a band out of the UK, which it's more sludge than anything, but it does have death metal elements. But there's also leanings towards the stoner side of it too. This is Diesel King. Concrete Burial.
That's cool.
And yeah,
I feel like I've seen that artwork somewhere before.
Very familiar, right? Yeah, it's Riddick.
Oh, okay. Well,
gotcha. I mean, his stuff. It's all.
Oh, that's definitely Riddick right there.
Once you see it, you know it. Good shit though. This came out in 2015, I think it was, something like that. Came out a little while ago, and it's not something that I see mentioned or pushed at all. So I don't know if the band's even still active. but I liked what I heard here, man. I kind of wish that people knew more about this band. Obviously, they were pretty serious. I mean, the fact that they got Riddick to come in here and do this for them, it's that was quite awesome. But that's not the reason why I got this, because I mean the Riddick art was kind of a bonus. But yeah, so it's pretty good stuff. All right, I think we're at Brian.
Yeah, here's my last couple. To start with, I'll talk about a classic of the U.S. scene, Acid King. This I found this used at a record store this summer, and was so thrilled because it was one I still needed. Acid King 3 from 2005. Yeah, this is a good one. This is a, I don't know, like a 2013 repress. It's on this like pretty good looking, like,
Damn, that's nice.
black and white kind of thing. So yeah, it sounds great. I think
Wait, is that a recent reissue?
it's like 20. It was like 2013, I think. So yeah, it's been a while, but it's cool. It's got some killer songs on here: Two Wheel Nation, Heavy Load, Bad Vision. I mean, I love their sound. Lori's got that kind of droning, haunting, kind of ethereal, like vocal that's kind of hangs in the back a little bit. It's just so fuzzy and
did the Small Stone put that one out?
Originally, yeah, they did originally.
Okay.
Yep. And when I was actually, I want to say Riding Easy might have done no, Leafhound. Leafhound did got licensed it for Japan. That was the other one I knew of. But yeah, Small Stone put out the CD originally. 2005 looks like. So but this band's came up because they just put out a new album, or is about to put out a new album, Beyond Vision. I listened to it twice, I think, and definitely Acid King. A very, very early stoner doom.
Oh yeah,
band.
looks like it already came out. It says here March 24th.
Okay, so it's been out a week or two. I think they started like around in the early 90s, so they one of my favorites of the whole scene. I think Bus Woods is fantastic. And I'm looking forward to digging more into the Beyond Vision. So this was a cool find from last year out in the wild. I was happy with that one.
It's funny because Chris showed Black Cobra earlier, and the guitarist from that is in that band now.
Oh, right now it is.
He's in Black Cobra.
Oh, cool.
So I guess maybe doing both projects.
Yeah, probably. It's not like here's another one. This one I picked up recently. This is some stoner doom, space doom from Poland. And now, Rick, I don't know if you remember, but you recently in your Easter video, you showed a still of Aaron the Metal Theologian.
Oh yeah,
and he's been on this big like stoner doom kick for a while. So most of his videos lately have been, had something to do with the stuff that he's been listening to, which is cool to see someone else kind of get into and explore and see where they go. And he's mentioned a couple record labels, and this was one he talked about. And so I just grabbed the CD. It's two songs, a little under 30 minutes. So I don't know if you call it a full length, but I think it's their second 3-piece. It pretty much sounds the way it looks. Taxi Caveman, spacey psychedelic stoner doom. this is cool, and I need to check out the first one.
I
But
think
yeah.
Brian and I share an interest in astronauts and on covers. There's something about it, man.
He's also got a bit of a Mandalorian look going on, so there's that.
Well, I'm sure
My
Logan has
last one.
quite a bit of that too.
Yeah. So, all right, let's see if I can share my screen real quick. How do I do that? Present. So I'll just, yeah, okay.
So you're able to do it on your end?
Let me see here. Share.
Ah,
And you gotta like okay it.
You might have to allow it.
there we go.
There we go. All right. So this is a band I have really been getting into. Unfortunately, they have very they don't really do physical releases. This is a band called Black Sky Giant from Argentina. This is their 5th like full length. Everything is just put on Bandcamp. But it's killer instrumental. Really kind of another one of these kind of spacey psychedelic desert rock, desert stoner metal type band.
Primigenian.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it. That sounds good to me. Primigenian.
I'd be pretty
Primigenian.
freaked out, man. If I was on that ship, like from a distance, and I see these like pillars coming out,
Yeah, I know.
they look a little phallical. I just
Well, this album's it's got it's got these big like hooks to it, and it's very kind of melodic. They obviously use their lead guitar to kind of, take the place of the vocal of where you would typically have like the vocal, to be up front. And they just do it really well. And all of their albums are very solid. And this is their latest one. And I think only one of their records has gotten a vinyl pressing, and it was really limited quantities. They're South American, so it was a European label, and it didn't really get distribution here in the States. So I'm hoping that changes here in the next year or so, and their stuff gets pressed, because it's really, first of all, it's really great music, and they have some cool artwork. Like this is this is really cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and bookmark it. I'm always looking out for stuff like this too, like for like Bandcamp Friday. 'Cause I do like the physicals, but then there's stuff like this where I'm like, oh, it's digital only, but I still want to support them.
Yeah, that's a good call, because I do the same thing where I'm just kind of looking for CDs and records, but I don't really think about going for the digital files.
You missed out on good bands.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm right with you guys on that too. Yeah. Like, it's too hard to get hung up on buying only physical.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass if you're a band, trying to work out these deals and then having to front the money. If you're independent, it's even more of a hassle, because it all falls on you. And I think I mentioned Bandcamp Friday, because again, you don't have to worry about them taking a fee, so it's another way to kind of help support the band. And maybe with the extra money they can pocket, then they can get a physical, out there for those who are looking for it. So that's pretty cool, though. Yeah, I went ahead and bookmarked it. So
yeah, it's and they're very prolific. It seems, I think in 2020 they put out 2 full lengths. And it's hard to believe just the high quality that they're pumping out. It's good stuff.
The Planet Terror album looks interesting.
Planet Terror, yeah, that's a cool one. Is that the one that's got like the Cthulhu looking guy?
Yeah,
and the maybe a warrior going toward him or something.
Let me go ahead. It might be worth showing. Let me just present it real quick. Yeah, look at that thing, man. That's pretty.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, very well done.
Cool.
Gotta check that one out. That's cool.
All right, what you got, man?
All right, so is this Are we wrapping it up, or do you have another round you want to rip, or
Whatever.
what do you-
I still got a few more I can go through, but we can, if you guys are nearing the end of your stack, it's all good.
I could do one more after this, I think. So okay, I'll go this one and then one last time. So to kind of wrap up like the stoner and doom genres, of course I want to mention a favorite of mine that kind of fits in just by name alone, Bong Ripper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is their I think 2015 album Miserable, and this is a 3-song like hour-long album where the tracks spell out what it's all about. Endless Descent into Ruin are the 3 tracks. Track 1 being Endless, and then Descent, and Bong Ripper are just, they fully dive into the sound that they want to create, kind of. And being an instrumental band and being able to pull this off, it's impressive to me. I love these guys. Probably one of the heaviest bands I can think of. Like one of the legitimate heaviest bands. Like the guitar tone, the bass tone, it's impressive.
I got that impression when I first heard of them. Just the name. If they weren't, it would have been a big letdown. if they weren't as heavy as they were.
Because it's like that's the heaviest part about smoking. It's the rip. They measure up, I would say. The album after this, Terminal, is also great. I think a lot of people get hung up on Satan Worshipping Doom.
Yep.
Yeah.
Miserable and Terminal are both great albums as well. So definitely check out Bong Ripper, another Chicago band.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
when I think they
a lot of Windy City love.
Yeah. I think they release all their stuff on their own record label.
They do.
And they need to get that earlier stuff put back out because it's kind of hard to find that.
I would recommend
Great Barrier Reefer and
yep. I think they have Hippie Killer up there currently, but it's great Barrier Records, and a lot of their CDs are fairly cheap. I got this for $5, so
yeah, good deal.
Get some Bong Ripper in your life. Like this one and Terminal, and as I said, I believe Hippie Killer and Satan Worshipping Doom are all like $5 for CD or $20 for like a double vinyl, which is pretty good.
I'm glad you brought them up because I don't think we brought them up last year on the 420 stream.
I think I did actually.
Did you?
I want to say I did, but I'm
trying to recall.
We showed a lot of stuff.
That's what it was. Like we showed a lot because it was just the two of us. So I'm like, all right, how do we make this?
I think I had just gotten those CDs in, and I think as we were wrapping up, I like grabbed them and showed them real quick.
Especially when
Killer Band, yeah.
Dude, for sure.
All right. So I got something weird I can pull here. So this is a project. I think it came out early last year. This is a collaborative effort. It's not outright stoner or anything like that, but this is something you kind of want to be on substances if you're going to listen to this. There's a real mixed bag. Motivation, which is it's funny because you see psychic wellness, and upside down here you see pyramid scheme, infinite 8 steps to power, money, and more. This whole thing is like it's very cult like. And I think one of the catchphrases was, "This is something you listen to if you like to motivate. If you like to be motivated by motivating others." The whole thing just has a really odd vibe.
It's kind of got a tongue-in-cheek kind of subliminal.
It is. The whole thing is, man. It came in this nice sort of pea yellow, and everybody's in this, man. It's. I think this is one of those projects where everybody kind of let aside what they normally would do and get a little crazy and experimental. Nice big QR code in the back. Although this thing's in the middle, it's probably I haven't actually tested if this thing works. Put up by Wendigo. As a matter of fact, yeah, it's got a little bit of everybody. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the Bandcamp here and show you if I can get this thing to work. So there's actually a clear, I guess what you call electric blue sort of a variant of this vinyl too.
Nice.
Which is,
looks just like that cover.
There's also a yellow. So I'm just gonna read off some names. So there's 12 tracks. We have Roger Moret on this, and he's on actually on a couple tracks of like Agnostic Front. We got members from, as a matter of fact, the heaviest track here is number 10. We got Kenny Andrews on here, Obituary. Norman Reedus from Walking Dead. Yeah, we got people from what was it, L7? So, like I said, it's a real mixed bag. You know, there are times it gets psychedelic, it even goes spiritual. It gets like kind of new agey. It gets sludgy. It gets doomy. So it's a bit of a concept album, kind of just going over this. I don't know if like cult is the right word, but this is something that you would find if you were in a cult. You know, they would put on, but it's kind of wild and little balls out there. So here's I'm gonna go ahead and show you the insert.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. Oh, Zenith Awaits.
QR code though.
That's kind of familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty wild. Like
Zenith Awaits at the Heaven's Gate.
It's hard to describe. Like you'd have to listen to it, but it's a bit of a mixed bag. And I think these guys just get together and just go out and experiment and try these different ideas. Yeah, I don't think they're pushing digital on this because they're asking $1,000. So yeah, I think the vinyl is the way to go.
Norman Reedus could buy that if he wanted to.
Yeah, I don't know what the story's behind that or how they got him on board.
That's an odd cameo. That's kind of cool. I respect that.
So I pulled this Purple Hill Witch.
Nice, yeah.
Real good one, man. This is a band, they haven't put out anything in a while, so I figured, I'll pull this and bring it up if you guys knew anything about what was going on with the band, but man, this shit's killer, man. So we were talking about different regions where, you're talking about Ukraine, Austria, and other parts of the world. So this is, they're from Norway. So the Church Within put this out. So they're a good label. They put out some good stuff. I can get that to focus. And yeah, these guys are heavy, nice and fuzzy. And they have a nice classic tinge to them too. It's got you do hear elements of Pentagram, Sabbath, and whatnot in here. Really good riffy stuff. So I'm gonna pull another classic.
Nice.
For those who are not in the know, but we talked about Kai's last year, but we didn't talk about Blues for the Red Sun.
Yeah, I don't think we did. So
classic. You just think about bands like this that kind of really kick things off, for what we're talking about tonight. So anybody who's just getting into Kai's or or just getting into the stuff, Green Machine.
That's yeah.
Oh man. This whole album is just great. Mondo Generator. that was the project. I think who was on it?
Bass player.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick Oliveri. Actually, I pulled that to play the show off, but I didn't because it's more cocaine than weed. So
It's a substance, man.
true.
All right. Anybody got anything else?
I'm out. I'm good.
I'm out.
I could go one more.
All right, man.
Sweet.
I think I got like one more thing, but I'll let you, in order to wrap it up.
I mean, all you for wrapping it up. I mean, your stream, but to step outside of like the stoner and like the doom genres to like actual music that I also enjoy whenever I'm stoned, which is not that often. It's a kind of a rare thing, but I really enjoy some death metal. Truthfully, like it's heavy. It's easy to just like click with. It kind of surrounds you. It can't really be like super gory or like brutal. It's got to be a little more old school, a little more swampy. And actually, I am wearing the shirt.
Oh yes.
That I want to talk about. This is Psychedelic Realms of Hell from Wolf Lurch.
That made a lot of noise when it dropped too, man.
Gainesville, Florida. Yeah.
For good reason. It's fantastic. It's one of my favorites.
Man, it's great. This is a great album. I mean, very definitely death metal, but with like enough atmosphere and psychedelic tinges to it to separate it from the glut of just old school death metal releases that was coming out, in 2021. And the concept behind it is great. Psychedelic Realms of Hell.
What's the song I'm thinking of? Stoned Ape Apocalypse or something like that?
Yeah, that's it. Stoned Ape Apocalypse. So
yeah,
it's
that song rips.
It's a concept album about like a evil psychedelic mushroom that comes to Earth and corrupts all of mankind, or something like that. So it's all like mushroom based. So
that's a concept I can get behind.
Yep.
Celestial mycelium.
Mm-hmm. Phantasmagorical fumes. There you go. Bog body boletus. I don't know. Great band out of Florida. I really hope they come out with another album. I mean, I'm just excited to see where they go.
Yeah, they were very prolific for like during the pandemic, pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I want
to. Mike, the main guy, Big Daddy Flurch, is pretty active on Instagram, social media. So
he's
follow him on there and get up to date on all things Flurchy.
Yep. And then finally, I like the craziness and off the wall nature of progressive rock. Be a little stoned.
See that?
And Rick, I'm showing off something you sent me. Brain salad surgery, man.
Oh wow!
I mean, I know this was a what you said. This was like an antique mall find or something like that, but it has served me well, and I appreciate
cover has
it.
seen better days.
The cover has seen better days. Let me see if I can make it work because this is a brilliant H.R. Geiger cover.
I was going to say it's Geiger.
Like,
yeah,
we got Oh, well, there we go. So I don't know if it's missing. There's supposed to be like a lady behind it.
There is.
Yeah.
I actually have a CD that has it's like a what do you call it? It's holographic. It kind of shows both sides.
Oh, that's cool. I have this on CD too, but I don't think it has that. But man, this is a crazy album right here. Like, here on the back of it is the is the lady. They
ended up
man.
they ended up buying out an old theater just to record that stuff in, which is very exclusive to that album. I think that was the only album they ended up using that recording on.
And you can see it. I mean, to me, it's all about let's see, Benny the Bouncer into Karn Evil. Like, that's what it's about. That transition from those two songs, and especially Carnival, which is like the kind of purpose of it. It's like what, 20-30 minutes.
Their stuff is pretty long. Like not all the tracks, but they do tread that territory. You know, like,
Yeah.
even on their other, like the other album, the Tarkus, you know, like that whole side is just one track.
Yep. It's Carnival 9, and it takes up 1.5 sides of this double-sided.
Holy shit!
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah.
It's about probably 35 minutes, I think, and it's very centered around that renting out a theater kind of concept, which it's fun. They say, we welcome you to a show that never ends, and it's talking about the theater and stuff. It's a great album. So
it's probably their, you know, well, their definition of heavy is not what by modern standards, but it's probably the heaviest thing they put out. You know,
it's heavy.
Consider their material.
You listen to it and you're a little overwhelmed by it, truthfully, or at least I am.
That was, I don't think they've ever reached those highs again, man. After that, I mean, I think you know, they've had a couple good releases, but not quite as strong as that one. At least for me.
And then they ended up at Love Beach, so
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's where they lost me, right? Wasn't born yet.
Well, that helps.
You know, when that came out. Cool. All right, I'll show the last few I got in the stack. This is actually a band I was really curious if you guys were familiar with. I know they've been on Bandcamp for a while. I actually discovered them through Bandcamp, and it actually has the drummer on that Diesel King. So again, they're based out of the UK. It's on this band. So, and we all like dinosaurs. So this is Gert. And this is I think this is the first thing they released.
Dinosaur Doom. I like it. Gert.
Yep, I'm checking that out right now.
Horrendosaurus.
I'm sold.
Of course.
So there was a description for this band, and this is the first time I've ever heard this term thrown together, which I didn't think was possible. It's called Party Doom.
Party Doom. Okay.
You know, it's that feeling, right? Like when you first heard the term pizza thrash, right? You're like, yeah, but that makes a little more sense because they can get a little silly like that. But Party Doom was something that was kind of a weird way to describe it. They're really like they're really a sludge band, but it's, you know, it's quite doomy. But I think the reason the word party gets associated to it is because it's quite upbeat for what you would normally expect for something with this kind of sound. So it's very up tempo, and these guys don't take themselves very seriously. So everything else sounds like it's supposed to be dark, you know, and just, you know, put you in this place. But these guys are just at the same time are sludgy and doomy, but still trying to have a good time. It's kind of crazy.
It's an interesting dynamic.
It's fun. It's really, I mean, come on, like Horrendosaurus. There we go. Established 2010. So I guess that's how long they've been around. So yeah, I got wind of them on Bandcamp. So I went ahead and, you know what? I just picked up all their stuff. Solace is their other one. They threw in these stickers, which I think it's a bunny and like a baby duck. Like these guys are crazy. They're just completely silly, man. Like this just
Happy Easter.
they throw in, yeah, exactly. Man, it's good shit, man. I think you guys would definitely, if you have not checked them out, you would definitely dig Scolossus. It's their this. I think this is the follow up to Horrendosaurus, and then their latest one. And this is actually my favorite one. So if we talk about like how it fits the stoner theme, this one kind of nails that. This particular video, Bongs of Praise.
Yes, that's awesome.
This shit, man, the riffs on this It's fucking just this is next level. Next level stuff, man. Rolling Stone. Like I didn't even get to the names. Like Weedian and Weep.
Doctor Strange Leave.
One Hit Wonder. Gauze and Effect. You know, you got Jazz Cabbage and
What?
Merrill Armchair.
Okay, this is the
Yeah,
best
and they
one.
ended with
Yet.
a banger. Bonk's the title track. It's just
Bonks of Praise.
that's such a fucking banger, man. Like
Yeah,
right
this is the best one yet.
so
Jazz Cabbage.
yeah, I had to go ahead and pick up all their stuff. Again, this came out in was this 2019, so it's been a while since they released anything. So they're about due for more
cool.
material. But if you're
I
gonna check
wanna
them
do
out,
that.
definitely I would say start with this one, work
gotta
your way
hear it.
back all the way to Horrendosaurus. But I particularly love that image right there, with that skeleton taking a hit. So yeah, I was just like, this is just good shit, man. So again, if you see it out there, I think they still have copies of Bandcamp. This is not something I hear anybody talk about or mention, but I mean, I'm sure they do pretty well overseas, you know. But I don't see them playing here anytime soon. Would love to see them live. But I gotta hike my ass over there and get a plane ticket if that's gonna happen. But they're just fun, man. It's just they don't take themselves too seriously. So I think
Nice.
oh shit, yeah, okay. So I pulled one more thing here. And this is a release from 1995, which I figured I'll probably end it with something kind of quirky. This is a band out of Norway. It's called Godforsaken. And I was wondering, should I show this in the Easter video? This is a weird thing. So should I show this in the Easter video or the Wait for the 420 stream? It's like they seem like very different things. But then you got a band like this in the works, Godforsaken. You're like, well, there's nothing stoner about this, right? The tide has turned.
Is it death metal?
It's death doom.
I've heard of God's Forsaken.
And the thing is, there's quite a few bands with that, I guess, with that derivative kind of title. It could be, or it might be a band that sounds similar. Because I think this is the only thing they released. I don't think the members, at least not that I recall, were in anything else. But the reason I'm bringing them up is because this is a weird, like, hodgepodge of just death doom with stoner riffs. It's like, imagine Morgan, but going stoner.
Okay.
It's really hard to describe. You'd have to definitely. This is one of those things where I'd have to tell you that you'd have to go and listen to it to know what I'm referring to.
I know. I think I recently checked these guys out. This is very familiar. I just haven't bought anything yet. I think I listened to that one, the tide has turned. Yeah. Yeah, I remember this now.
Maybe it popped up on YouTube one day or something, because I get random shit just pop up like that. And yeah, I was taken aback because it was not something I was expecting.
Right, it was a weird mixture of stoner and death metal or death doom.
Yeah. Godforsaken. Came out way back in 95.
Yeah, and that's being back at that far back is what was like, okay, now I gotta check this out. Because I totally missed it back then.
You know what's cool about getting these old CDs too is they kind of tend to list out some of the stuff they're trying to pitch at the time.
Oh yeah, is that the Depravity EP?
Yeah, Depravity's on there. Let me see. Celestial Seasons on here.
Okay.
Yeah, at the time, Christ Agony. That's a band no one talks about.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Where'd you find that CD? Was it Discogs or?
I got this at was a Sit and Spin. They usually have stuff like this sitting out, and it's
nice.
Blind Buy picked it up, and I started playing this. And I'm like, it sounds a little too groove for something that's supposed to be death doom. And in a little more. I mean, yeah, for Doom, it's supposed to be a little more slowed down, but it sounds quite a bit stonery. So it was quite a surprise.
That's cool. I downloaded that on your recommendation. So
you probably will be able to
fine.
find this pretty cheaply too. It's not one of those so obscure that people are asking 3 figures for it or anything like that. It's so
more than
if
2 on I'm out. So
yeah. So
more than
so
one.
that was my stack. I don't know about you guys if you're. There we go.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm all good, man. That was
All right.
great.
All right.
Good mixture of stuff. Good. We got some classics, some new stuff, some rock, some space, some sludge, doom.
2023 in the bag. So thanks guys for doing this again, and
Absolutely.
Brian, Logan for joining us this time. Chris, if you're watching, thanks for being part of this. I think that this is something that I hope people like you mentioned Aaron, Metal Theologian, and people like that, who longtime collectors, who maybe bypass a lot of this or just starting to get into or revisit this style of music. There's a lot of good stuff to be found here. I think we showed a nice mix of stuff from different regions. Some really accessible stuff, some stuff that requires a little bit more patience, but pays off, if you're willing to stick with it. And some releases that I've forgotten about that you guys have shown. I'm like, oh shit, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing is getting reminded of killer albums.
Man, I've been taking notes the whole time.
Oh,
got a couple albums from all 3 of you.
Yeah.
And I'll always have this video to refer back to. So I'll go ahead and leave some links. Cosmic Peddler, I'll leave a link to the Weedian stream. Good timing, guys. That was definitely one that I didn't know you guys even were gonna do that. So probably leave a link to the Doomed and Stoned series too on Bandcamp, because there's quite a bit of them. It's a kind of a nice cheap way to get kind of up to speed with a lot of these kind of bands too.
Yep.
So just want to thank everybody who's who's tuned in and watched and all that. So it's been fun. So you guys want to leave any parting words?
Go out and see any of these bands that come through your area live. I mean, they're so much fun to see live. I feel like I just saw Weed Eater and Telekinetic Yeti last week for the 3rd time in the last 12 months for both bands.
That's amazing.
So I'm a little bit. I've got a bit of a problem. I'll go within a 2-hour drive. If they're playing, I'm going to go see them. Even though it's the same set list and I've seen it a bunch of times. There's a lot of killer sludge stoner doom in the U.S. That are just road warriors, and they just are on the road 8-9 months a year, and so head out there and check them out because it's always a good time.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that, man. As long as it doesn't turn into a full-blown addiction, and then your marriage is on the rocks and all kinds of stuff. We don't want any of that.
Yeah, it was a Wednesday night. I did it. The next work day was a little rough.
It's a sacrifice.
Yeah, good stuff.
I can do the weekday gigs thing, man. As you get older, it gets harder. Yeah, it's just trying to hike your ass out there and and try to function the next day at work.
Right.
Holy shit.
Good luck with that. For me, it's just support the scene. I mean, really, it's almost like a separate scene entirely than the average metal scene that we talk about.
True.
Like, find the labels, find the tours, find the venues, and go to some of these concerts. I mean, check out Cosmic Peddler, check out Heavy Psych Sounds, check out the Weedian comps, check out Doomed and Stoned. Just support the scene.
There's a lot of great
music.
YouTube channels also that focus on just posting new releases, full-length albums like Mr. Doom 666.
Oh yeah,
it's a good one.
I find a lot of good stuff there too. What's the other one? Was it A Hand of Doom? I think it's
Hand
another
of
one.
Doom's good. Yeah.
A few, but
Yeah.
can't think of it off the top of my head at the moment. But yeah, there's quite a number. I'm subscribed. They kind of just randomly show up.
Yeah. I mean, every day they're posting, full length EPs, full length records,
Yeah, and sometimes you don't get like some context behind it. The videos just shows up with these, you'll check them out, but I think streams like this where people can have a good footing, like, okay, where do I go? This is why I whipped out the Goat Snake or the Caius, just to kind of show what these are the bona fide classics, and Chris brought out the War Horse. Well, you did too, Logan, but that kind of thing.
First.
Yeah, he did first. All right, so on to here. So guess everybody have a good night. Cheers.
Cheers.
Until the next one.
Yeah. Happy 420.
Happy 420.
Enjoy the day and night.